Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's Logan, the Metal and Beer Snob, and I'm joined tonight by my literal uh, brother in metal, Marc, over here. Perf.
Howdy.
Oh,
What?
sorry, I had an extra stream open up in my. So I was hearing the replay, but yeah, what's up, everyone? Thanks for joining in. It's gonna be an in-depth dive. Prepare to open the third eye, transcend your physical form, realize that pain is an illusion, etc., etc. We're trying our best to dive into Tool. So I admit I'm a little intimidated by this endeavor because Tool is one of those like bigger bands to me where the fan base kind of overshadows it with how ravenous they are and how in depth they already dive in. So, needless to say, this deep dive is kind of unnecessary. Like, it's already been done by people who are a lot more, uh, you know, into it and methodical and religious with the band more so than me.
Or me.
And definitely you. Sorry. But so definitely people who are watching, don't view this as a factual historical piece or like a end all Tool retrospective. Really, it's just one, long-term fans' view on their discography and a new fan's view on their discography as well. So, yeah, I guess no better than now to dive in with, our introductions. But first, I want to talk about what I'm drinking because I could use a beer. So, to me, Tool fans definitely kind of, as I said, overshadow the band, and I think IPA fans kind of overshadow craft beer fandom in a way. So I had to go with a extra IPA from, of course, Sierra Nevada because it's funny. Tool, Marc, as you pointed out, they're kind of surface deep. You're kind of you're in the deep puddle. Really, you're not really diving into any extreme subculture or anything like that, or their lyrical content and everything else is not super in depth, but just in depth enough that you feel like you're in the deep end or in like the vast ocean. And I think IPAs, especially from breweries like Sierra Nevada, are the equivalent, and IPA fans are are that equivalent as well. So let me find my bottle opener. Where did I put it? And
Well, I am drinking
well, yeah. What are you having, Marc?
a Blue Moon.
Perfect.
I made this choice because it was either this or Yingling.
I think it's a wise choice. Though, do you like Yingling? Because honestly, I do not mind Yingling as a.
I don't mind them,
as a
but
beer.
I don't like them. 5 or 6 or something. I don't know. I can drink it easily.
On the 10 scale.
It is not distasteful.
It's a beer.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. Cheers, guys, and we already got Rick in the chat. Rick, thanks for popping in early, man. Cheers. And another brief side note: this is Marc's and I 4th discography stream.
Is it?
Yeah. The first one was Mastodon, then we did In Flames, then Blind Guardian, and now we're tackling the Tool discography. So, Marc, thank you for sticking with it for four different bands discographies, and this one especially is probably the most out of your initial comfort zone. Also, Rick wants to know why you don't like his native brew.
I don't dislike it. I just don't like
fighting
it.
Words.
It's perfectly good.
But yeah, cheers, and excited to see who else pops in the chat. Rick, thank you once again. We'll go and kind of get into a brief introduction for the band. So Tool is probably the most well-known obscure band. Like they've had number one albums. I think 3 out of the 5 that they've released have been number one albums, and they sell out arenas and stuff. But people still they're still viewed kind of obscure, like to a certain extent. And
they have a certain mystique about them.
They have a certain mystique, and it's definitely largely because of all 4 of their main members and stuff, and they've had a pretty consistent lineup. So let's see. So as I said, the band's lore and fandom is kind of too vast for this stream. So this is mainly just a temporary document of how Marc and myself feel about the band's music, as of this recording. So there are many different ways to interpret some of these songs and albums, and I am consciously choosing not to do that. Besides just from my own, viewpoint, there are plenty of other videos out there that are more in depth and analytical than this one will be. So go watch some of those. That being said, we will still be overanalyzing as much as possible. To the best of my ability, I will try to overanalyze stuff. But I don't think we'll be here all night. I think with only 5 albums, we might be lucky, and this might be a 2-hour stream.
Maybe
3-hour stream. I don't know. I'm hopeful,
and I don't mind that at all because they also.
Cheers, Kellen. Are you a Tool fan, Kellen? Just out of curiosity, because I'm seeing who is and who isn't. Because I view Tool as one of those bands where if you were born and around during a certain time, you might look more favorably upon them than if you were, older and kind of missed the boat, right? Like, I think they're a band where if you're getting into metal and they're one of the first bands you're listening to, or if you're getting into progressive music and they're one of the first bands you listen to, they're going to be godlike to you, just next level, or at least that's what I experienced. And I know due to their cult-like following that it's not just I who feels that way. So I'm curious who all feels like that. But first, what is the actual introduction to the band? So Marc, how did you get into Tool? Where was your first exposure to this band?
Well, it began a long time ago in Raleigh, North Carolina.
In the house, many houses away.
Some fella named Logan bought 10,000 Days. And you just played it a lot, mainly.
Was that really the first Tool album you remember me listening to? Was 10,000
Yes,
Days?
That's the first one I remember you listening to. And then I watched like all the music videos.
That's
and then I just kept.
Start.
So I would revisit those songs every once in a while, like every other year or so. I'd go on like a music video binge.
So for a while, your main exposure to them was just like the music videos and whatever I would listen to. Yeah,
like Lateralis, Sober. What are the other music videos?
Like Stinkfist. I know you enjoy that one. Yeah. Prison Sex also another great.
Does that? I don't remember that music video.
Oh, maybe you don't. What about Schism or Parabola?
Is that the one with the eyeballs coming out, with the faces coming out of the eyes?
Vicarious.
The little heads on
like
stalks.
That was Vicarious. Yeah. But the music videos are definitely a big part of their. I think of how people find the band is just through their music videos and how weird and obscure they are.
That's actually something I didn't revisit for this, so I haven't watched the music videos in like a year. But
I didn't either, and I kind of intended to because I wanted to talk about like which one was our favorite, but I forgot. Honestly, off the top of my head, I definitely enjoy the sober one a lot. Like that one's
Yeah,
just it
I
feels
do like
very
that one.
claustrophobic and yeah, just dark.
I like the like stop motion rather than CGI stuff. But mainly for like non-album performances, I watched the live. I think I probably watched the live that was mentioned earlier. Let's see.
Which one?
I believe Dreadful Minutes mentioned live show on YouTube. Yeah,
Oh,
Philadelphia gig.
is that the one where he's wearing the pink onesie? He's kind of like hunched over like that.
That's the one I saw. I don't know
Yeah,
if it's actually this Philadelphia gig, but
yeah. As for me, I think my first exposure was probably just through rock radio, more or less, back like 2009-ish.
Mhm.
Sober was a big one that was played constantly. Like that was probably the only Tool song I think they played, and it definitely sounded extremely different compared to everything else. Like this is rock in 2009, so there
Yeah.
was like Theory of a Dead Man, Led Zeppelin, all those like classic rock bands, and then the contemporary rock acts like Nickelback and 3 Days Grace, and then Sober would come on, and it would sound completely different, so much darker, and just
Yeah,
yeah,
that is
different
interesting.
tone than every single other song that would be played on the radio. So from there, it was finding. I think 46 and 2 is probably the next track I heard, and
Hmm.
then picking up. I believe Undertow was actually my first album as well, which I think it was your first full length to pick up as well, right?
Yes, it was.
Ah, lucky guess.
Funny how you should know that.
I know what it was a Goodwill find, I believe I regifted to you.
Yes, I won't
So
complain.
so for me it was Undertow, and then I found Aenima, and then 10,000 Days. So and I think Callan is highlighting a big part about the whole Tool fandom is they really are just like that big progressive name for the next
Oh
generation.
yeah, Dream Theater.
It's like what Rush was to boomers, what Dream Theater was to Gen
But
X,
wasn't Dream Theater like when did Dream Theater start? Was that 80 in the 80s?
like the
I
late
thought that was
80s.
okay.
Yeah. And they released Images and Words in 92, I believe, which is
That's what I
that's the
remember.
album with
Right.
Pull Me Under and stuff.
Yeah.
But I still think
Although I
just
don't think
that
that's
couple
the
year
best one.
difference, I think can make a lot of difference, really. So
Hmm.
I think Tool is what Dream Theater was to Gen X to millennials, essentially. Like that was that millennial, alternative culture band was Tool that carried on progressive music. So
Hmm.
I think I was calling them obscure earlier. They're definitely not obscure. I was just they just carry
They're
that
like
as a
the
part. They carry that as a part of their image somehow,
yeah.
even though they're selling out, 15,000 seat hockey stadiums, basketball stadiums, or whatever. And to me, that's an art form. That's pretty impressive. That I don't even think Dream Theater could hold a candle to.
It's like all the surface level like new age cult things you get into. And they sing about that too, where it's like, Buddhism and third eyes and stuff.
It's like
And like
it's like the you're a freshman in college band, kind of.
yeah. Yeah.
You're maybe a sophomore, maybe, but it's that first, like, oh yeah, I'm getting out in the world. I'm listening to Tool now. But so yeah, those were the introductions. So now a brief history to kind of dive into the band. And so they're from Los Angeles originally, formed in 1990, and they consist of course, vocalist Maynard James Keenan, guitarist Adam Jones, and drummer Danny Carey. So that's like the three core people. And then the current bassist, Justin Chancellor, he actually joined a little bit later in 1995, replacing the founding member, Paul D'Amour, who was on Opiate and Undertow. And he recorded a couple tracks for Aenima as well. But all the band members essentially moved to LA. So they didn't start in LA. They were all kind of transplants to the area. And they moved there during the 1980s for various reasons, and just got linked up due to the local music scene. And Tool was definitely not an immediate thing. It took some time for them to get there. And real quick, I want to show something that Marc sent me earlier. Not sure. I'm just going to post it in the. I'm just going to post it in the chat.
I found it looking through live stuff.
It's a recording of his first band.
I think they're in Seattle for that band.
Which apparently stands for Children of the Anachronistic Dynasty. Huh. So it was Maynard's first band. And it features
like a proto
early rendition of Sober, which is definitely interesting because it's like Sober but through the albums of the 80s. Like it feels very new wavy, very bass driven. Like the guitars aren't, as pronounced. It's a lot faster too versus slowed down and brooding.
I think he removes the like Mother Mary, won't you listen? Won't you whisper? Is it whisper? Mother Mary, won't you whisper?
The funny part is that his delivery during this song is still very similar. It's got a similar pacing. It just feels very out of place to the backing music.
Yeah, he still does the same sort of like what's the odd? I always thought it was odd. The butler, stalking butler with his finger pointing
on the minaret or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's an interesting start for Tool for sure. And I have to let my cat out of the room in a second. But the first album, so from there, they join up, and we are graced with, well, first an actual like demo, but then that demo is essentially, it's all the same tracks that come to be their first EP, Opiate. And I have the CD. This was also probably one of the first things that I picked up from Tool as well. And then, thankfully, it's pretty cheap to find on LP, or it was. I don't know. But this was like actually $9 on Amazon back in the day.
It's pretty good.
And Rick, I sent the link to that video, Rick, in the chat. Yep. I didn't realize that until Marc found it and mentioned it. But no, yeah, so Black LP. But here we go. We got Opiate. So Marc, I forgot beforehand. We have spreadsheets prepared. As is tradition when Marc is on the stream, spreadsheets are made, ratings are given, rankings are given. It's very detailed. So do you have your spreadsheet to present?
How do I do this again?
So you go down to, I forgot we were supposed to do this beforehand, but you go down to present, share screen, and then you select which screen you want to share.
I only have one screen. Oh, I
see. So that's me. That's yeah.
Like that? Is that working?
Yes. So now I'll add yours. Boom. So there you go. So here is your ranking.
Oh, there we go.
Your rating. Yep. And Chris, do you just sense when we're talking about spreadsheets? I swear, every single time you only pop up as soon as we start talking about spreadsheets. And the weighted average is a pretty impressive feature. And it's not only just the weighted average for the tracks, but also there's an extra weight if the first song and last song are rated higher, because that kind of depends on the overall quality of the album, how that first track hits and how that last song hits.
It's also by CD,
Extra
so it's the
detail.
first. If it's a double CD, it'll be the first and last song of the CD. But because when you flip through, right. So it's actually, for me, this is a very solid listen, but I actually don't have much to say about this.
Pretty straightforward, right? It's
Yeah.
like it's very much a 90s alternative metal album. Can you kind of hear where they're coming from pretty easily? It's not the most unique release.
Yeah, I like it a lot, but there's nothing that really like knocks it out of the park into a 10, what I would consider a 10. Part of me is a highlight. Opiate, I really love. It would be a 10 in my opinion if they got rid of the last bit. I sort of don't care about that.
I separate that. So you're talking about
no, it's part of the same song.
Well,
they should have done what they do later and separated it into an interlude.
I consider it an interlude because there's a full like minute of
but it's
silence
part of the
or
song,
something.
Man. It's part of the same song.
All right.
We all
hear it differently.
You know, they do things like having the 69th track and little
that's a nuisance
fiddly
right
things,
there.
And I just sort of don't care about all that, like little obscurities.
It sometimes feel like they're at war with the listener a little bit.
Yeah.
Like they don't like you.
Yeah,
so I don't know what the specific
his interviews.
Yeah.
Some of Maynard's interviews, you get that idea.
Yep. And I think it's they like their double entendres too. They're very surface level double entendres. They're a tool because you are a tool, or they are a tool to be used. I don't know.
Earlier, I can't. So Sweat. What's the chorus through line of Sweat? Do you remember?
Man, I don't know. I'm just remembering "You Are a Part of Me" now.
I remember that one.
Yeah.
Jerk off is shoot you in the fucking head.
Fucking head.
Right?
Yep.
That's what I remember for that. Cold and Ugly. I am frightened too. That one's actually growing on me. But
yeah, me too, actually.
I'm going to leave it as it is now. Opiate is I want to. I remember that one. So it sort of has a strong closing, and I don't really remember the first two songs that well.
It definitely closes strong, and really, Opiate is the best at the preview of what is to come. You know, the best snapshot of what's ahead. All right, so what did you give that as what was your final score for that?
So weighted average 8.29, so 8.3. Album art, production quality, I thought was a little below quality. I could have marked it a little lower, but album construction, I think, is a solid 8. So that comes out to about 8.08, 8.1.
Okay, so it's still an 8 out of 10, which is
good.
Pretty good for an EP. All right,
Well, EPs actually typically rank higher because they have fewer songs. But
that's fair. Which I think my view of this is definitely higher just because it's an EP. Because I think this early era of Tool is best enjoyed in like the EP format, which I will dive into in a second. I'm gonna go let my cat out of this room. But first, look, there's my ranking. Take a look.
Whoa. Look at those numbers. You have Part of Me and Cold and Ugly I mean, they're basically the same rankings as me.
Kind,
But
well, maybe just a little inflated compared to you. So, Sweat and Hush are definitely, to me, like they're strong openers. They don't fully capture what Tool will be. I think Hush is specifically uh, a stronger piece. That's the one where he's like, you know, I can say what I want to, even if I'm not
right.
serious. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can say what I want to, even when
if I'm
I'm
not
not
serious.
serious.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Yeah. Like I love the delivery to that, and it, you know, definitely
That is pretty good.
there's a certain level of humor to all of Tool's music, especially their music that I like. And honestly, this was a theme that I really noticed as exploring their discography, preparing for this stream. Was I like it when there's this like slightly stupid, you know, double entendre humor that they just constantly employ. And on the albums where it's the most heavy-handed, I'm into it. And it's definitely here. I like it on.
Where else is it besides Hush? Because a lot
I
of the
think
other
it's
ones seem fairly serious, like dealing with obsession and fear and
oh,
you
dude,
know
just
cults.
jerk off. That's my answer. Fucking jerk off. It's
Yeah. That's
I
true.
I can I can do what I want as long as I don't get caught. That's essentially, you know, it's him being like Judge Dredd, essentially. Like it's only illegal if you get caught. So
I suppose you could interpret that in a more comedic way. I was sort of thinking,
I mean,
a lot of the
it's just to me,
times,
it's just it's an over the top, angsty '90s teenage anthem, really, and it reeks of like a younger band, and I don't know. It appealed to me the first time I heard it back when I was
Mhm.
like 16, 17, and I still get the chills and the, you know, if I'm
Yeah,
driving, the speed that I'm driving at still accelerates by about like 10 miles per hour, and uh yeah, it gets the blood pumping still. And
yeah.
just it's the first Maynard scream you get in their discography, and I love it. And then he goes, you know, shoot you in your fucking head. It's yeah, it's
Mhm.
awesome. And it's definitely a product of the 90s, of the angsty, you know, alternative 90s that was definitely not it was glamorizing darker themes at the time for sure. So
Well, I guess.
to me, the last two songs are the best, and the first two songs are good openers, and then I kind of get lost in the middle part. But really, Part of Me is still great. Cold and Ugly is still great. So, man, I really have no issue. I gave the production quality a 7 because of the two
Yeah.
live songs in the middle. It kind of does take you out of it a little bit, and you can tell a difference in the overall production.
Get that Bob Marley looking guy out of here.
Yeah. You can definitely tell a difference in the production, or you know, in the tracks because of that. And then, you know, maybe the album could have been constructed a little bit better. So I gave it an 8. Like maybe Jerk Off could have been in the middle of the album versus right at the end. But uh,
Right.
and I do want to highlight Opiate, the title track, real quick. It's, as I said, it's the closest to the direction that Tool will be heading. It's oddly light and soothing in instrumentation, in like the verses and stuff, but then it still sounds extremely sinister and gets really heavy. It definitely
Well,
has
that adds to the sinister element, right?
the
Because of the lyrics,
yeah.
which
I
is
mean, it's a song of two different sides. You know, it's like one side sounds somewhat hopeful and stuff, but the other one is the actual sinister reality of.
Tool is good at balancing that in their future works as well, where they balance either like hopeful, like good sound, like hopeful sounding lyrics with sort of a sinister melancholic song, or vice
Mhm.
versa.
And then So yeah, that to me that one is a definite 10, just because of I think kind of what it signifies for their sound, and I really just like the songwriting approach in that song. And overall, Opiate is definitely a strong start, which is still tethered to the era that it was released in, and also, I mean, it's just an EP, so you're kind of tethered to that fact as well. I definitely enjoy the angsty '90s energy, and that to me keeps it engaging. And then I finally want to just highlight the bass performance by what did I say his name was? It's Paul Diamore. Like, he has some killer bass lines in tracks like Part of Me and I think Cold and Ugly. So, and we got Tyler, dude. Tyler, cheers, man. Tell me what you're drinking. We got a Torpedo IPA, some Sierra Nevada over here. And then, are you a Tool fan, Tyler? So no, we just wrapped up Opiate. So I give Opiate, it's about for me a 8.6, which I mean that's pretty strong for an EP. Like,
I mean, I think EPs are usually heavily like laden with. Usually, they put their good songs on an EP. I think EPs are usually fairly high scoring.
I guess when we're looking, like, the last EP that we talked about was Subterranean by In Flames, and
Yeah,
that was a very dominant EP. So I don't know. 8.6, great start. Honestly, I revisited this a lot throughout the years. And there was a lot of like the longer, because Tool is not a very, they're a very long-winded band. Like, as soon as we get past Undertow, every single album is 80 minutes, essentially. So the fact that I have an EP that is about 25 minutes, that makes it like a go-to. So I definitely spun this a lot. But moving on from 1992's Opiate, we get 1 year ahead, 1993, and they released Undertow. So here, let me just pull up the artwork real quick. There. So you like this album cover, Mark?
yeah, I actually really like it.
It is kind of. I honestly, I never knew what to make of it. It does look like a rib cage. I always saw it as some kind of like trilobite mantis thing, or like not mantis, but
I just like it's. I love the shadowing. I love the light source. I like the how simple it is. There's no words,
mm-hmm.
and it's sort of just. I like those artworks.
Yeah, it's. I mean, Tool is filled with artwork like that. Whereas there's no words. It's just. Honestly, they're exclusive. They're exclusively.
A lot of their
exclusively that. Only this
later
is the only
stuff though is busy.
Okay.
Like this
yes.
one. It's exactly like Opiate, where it's a little too busy.
I was about to say, this is the only one where they actually have the album title and their name right there.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are just like, to me, closer to this. But
that's.
And actually, Rick is right here. It's the sculptures from Beetlejuice.
Yes.
All right, Mark's ready. I see his spreadsheet.
Huh? I didn't write anything for this one.
It's
I knew
fine.
I forgot something.
Tell me why you ranked them how you ranked them.
Intolerance is a 7.
Hey.
I forget why I ranked it as a 7, to be honest. Prison sex is great. Mm-hmm. Some words to be saying. That's I rank it as an 8, which is sort of my like go-to good ranking. Uh, highlights of prison sex is it's a dark song and it has that I can't recall exactly the lyrics off the top of my head because it's sort of
It's a
overshadowed.
very controversial song though due to the lyrics as well. It was one of those that was like being played on MTV and stuff, but then was promptly
Right.
removed because of like lyrical themes. And it's about
Yeah.
abuse essentially. So,
Oh, I thought it was about the title of the song.
or it is about the title of the song. No.
I don't know. To be honest, I did not look too deep into any of the song meanings. I just assumed, I just read the lyrics and listened to the song and guessed.
That's what every Tool fan does. So you're doing great so far.
Sober, I like a lot.
You gave Sober the right
I gave Sober a 10 out
rating.
of 10.
The right Sober is just it's a perfect song. I'm glad you felt that.
I have listened to a lot, but it really is the one where I think of Maynard does it in a few of the other songs. A lot of the times, he's just very good at taking a perspective that I assume is not his own, but I don't know exactly his history with this.
Yeah.
With the topic of the song, which is, I think, about addiction and getting over it and how it damages relationships.
Yes. That's definitely what he said about it.
But he's very good at portraying it, and seeing the live rendition of it was very impactful, I'll say. It's a good performance.
And then I think you like the songs that come after the radio friendly songs too, because now we're at Bottom, Crawl Away, Swamp
Crawl
Song.
Away.
Yeah.
I should have re-listened to this today, but I didn't.
It's all good.
It's one of those things where you like, this is the one you gave me the album like last year sometime, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have listened to it many times in the car. So I sort of assumed that I knew what I would talk about. But
when you're put on the spot, when the light of YouTube and StreamYard is upon you, you're like, oh.
Yeah, so this one I literally just did. My method for all these albums was listen through one time and then listen to it again and write down my thoughts. The first time I put down the numbers. And I didn't re-listen to this one.
Busted.
Yeah. Crawl Away I put as a 9.
That one has a very cool, like, slinky guitar intro, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just can't remember any of these songs. 4 Degrees.
What did you rank 4 Degrees?
8.
Okay.
Swamp Song is a 7. There are 3 7s on this album. Swamp Song, Disgustipated, and Intolerance.
Mm-hmm. How about that name, Disgustipated? That's some good word craftsmanship right there.
I mean, what's the second part?
What, constipated with disgust?
I mean,
disgust.
I'd have to look. I need to look up the etymology of this now.
You don't have. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. They're like, you're so disgusted it becomes constipated. And if you need some explanation of what they're talking about, remember that's the spoken word part where it's Reverend Maynard, and he's talking about the plight of the carrots. He's like, Reverend Maynard, do you hear the screams of the carrots? They're screaming because tomorrow is harvest day.
Oh, right.
And for them, it's the Holocaust. And yeah, it's a very ritualistic closing song that it kind of wears out its welcome. I mean, I don't think it's meant to be necessarily good, but it's
Yeah,
definitely leaves an
that's probably
impression.
why I
For
gave it
me,
a 7.
it left an impression. I think
Is
I
the
gave it
spoken word part.
a 6 or something.
And right.
Tyler showing off the OG cassettes. But yeah, so what did you give this album overall then? What was your feeling?
Well, it's higher than
Opiate?
Opiate. I think the production quality and album construction are better than Opiate. I like the album art, so I gave it a 10. Album art is the least impactful, though. So I think, oh, I've just ruined everything.
Oh, you got it.
I think production quality is like a 4. Album construction maybe is similar, and artwork is a 1 or something. But
okay. As far as weighting it,
yeah, and then the like weight, the track average is like a 10. So the track average should overpower everything else. But 8.1, and I think this is a lower track average than Opiate, just because there are more songs for me to slog through.
yeah.
That may be partially why
that happened to me too.
Peter out. But the overall score is higher mainly because of my higher production and album construction scores.
Yeah. So for me, this was my first foray into Tool as the full length band, and back then I was definitely not one to listen to full length albums. I was just listening to like songs, skipping to the next song I want to listen to, and I would replay songs to death. I didn't have the patience to be able to just sit and listen to an album as a whole. So it definitely, I think, colors how I view this album. And surprisingly, some of the tracks that I listen to the most still hold up perfectly fine. Like I probably listen to these songs, over 100 times easily, but they're still some of my favorites. Of course, the biggest surprise for me, and honestly, I was surprised to see your ranking. You gave Intolerance a 7. I think Intolerance is a 10. I was absolutely blown away. I had never really listened to it until diving back in to this ranking, because I think back when I was listening to Undertow a lot, I would either skip it or I would just be like not paying attention, waiting for Prison Sex to come on, because that's like the first big single that I was aware of. But Intolerance is a hidden gem for me, and I forgot about it really. And that riff, there's this interlude break and this riff that comes in, and it just perfectly encapsulates what Tool want to do with their music, and it's like sleek, but then it has a lot of power and weight to it, and it just makes me want to like kind of mosh a little bit. And then that's the song where it's like I lie, cheat, and steal. That's like what he repeats over and over again. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it's a perfect
that's
song.
Why it's a 7. It's repetitive.
Oh, I like the repetitive nature of it.
Yeah.
Because it builds throughout the song, as I said, because of that main riff break that comes in twice. I don't know. It's a great song, and probably my biggest track change of the whole discography due to this stream. Like, I think before this stream, I probably would have given it like a 7, just because I wouldn't have remembered it. I'd be like, oh yeah, that song's like a 7. Like, it's not a very strong opener, but I think it's a 10. Prison Sex to me obviously is a 10. It's just an iconic single. It's dark, it's brooding. He says, I'm breathing, so I guess I'm still alive. It's definitely wrapped up in just patterns of abuse and everything like that. And then Sober is my favorite song on the album, and you would think that would be the track that Tool fans and like I would be sick of, because it is
The
played
most
often.
played.
It's overplayed. It's a radio friendly song that is played on, alternative rock radio all the time. But I still can't get enough of it. It's got to be like that bass line, the dunna, dunna,
Hmm.
and just the lyrics too, of just how, like, Maynard he's essentially describing this vile creature whose sole purpose is to destroy you, and it does sound like either a dependent relationship or an addiction, just something toxic. So I absolutely love it, and yeah, it hasn't gotten old to me after like 15 years of listening to it somehow. And then Jeff, cheers, man. This is actually my brother Marc down here. This is his handiwork. He likes to
Yeah.
use the Excel for tracking stuff. So whenever we do these deep dives, we're doing it the Excel way. It helps keep it organized.
It's
And then,
mainly so it calculates the numbers for me.
which is funny because you approach like how you're actually rating albums and stuff due to like a formula or a numerical equation. I kind of could just go by a gut feeling. So it's cool to see when your equation spits out the gut feeling that I have, but then oftentimes it doesn't quite capture.
I just
the
can't
gut
verbalize my
feeling
gut
I have.
feelings. So
That's tough, man. It is tough. And then so the second half of the album. So I consider the first three tracks, that's the first part of the album, like the radio friendly, or just a great strong opener to Undertow. Then bottom, honestly, all the way through the title track, Undertow, is the second part, middle part of the album. And that's where it kind of starts to blend together for me. Like, they all sound like relatively similar as far as tracks go. They're like, got that angsty 90s sound. They're very dark sounding. The guitar tone is very similar. There's not as much that separates it out. Honestly, Bottom to me is my favorite track of these four, just because of the spoken word part. And really,
that's also the first one.
The spoken word, well, honestly, maybe that's why too. It's the first song I'm hearing. The spoken word part holds it back a little bit, maybe because who enjoys spoken word in their songs? But then at the same time,
I think if it's done well, it is good.
it was done
Number
well.
of the Beast.
Yes, but there's that initial part where he starts speaking, you're like a little taken aback. But by the time he's saying, I'm naked and fearless, and my fear is naked, you're just wrapped up into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy the spoken word part of Bottom, and that, along with the main riff and just the intensity of the song, makes it a 9 for sure. And then I gave Swamp Song a 9, but honestly, that 9 moves around between Crawl Away, Swamp Song, and Undertow. Like, it just depends on when I'm listening. Then the rest are the 8 and 8. Like, Swamp Song's a little bit slower and more depressive. Undertow has that really fast guitar intro. And Crawl Away also kind of similar to Undertow.
Mm-hmm.
And then number 4 was 4 Degrees, I guess, not number 4. 4 Degrees was a bit of a sleeper hit for me as well. Like, I went from never paying attention to this song, like, ever, to kind of liking it. It's a bit more subdued than the previous songs, but then at the same time, I think that makes it stand out because it has a different feel, different tone to it. And then Flood, I gave a 7 because honestly, I am a bit underwhelmed by it. And it's because it takes 3.5 to 4 minutes to go from the intro to the actual start of the song. It's like a 7-minute long song, and it's about half of it to actually get started.
I mean,
And then it doesn't necessarily deliver on, you
right.
know, on that long intro.
Because that's not an uncommon tool
It's not.
technique, the long intro.
No, it's not. But here, to me, it doesn't pay off. And maybe it's just because it's towards the end of the album and I'm already a little tired of it, kind of. It just doesn't deliver.
Mhm.
So that one is a 7. And then Disgustipated's already what I kind of said. It's
6.
It's
Wow.
closer to a throwaway song as you can get. It's kind of interesting, but then it's still, you have to wait to track 69, of course. So it doesn't quite pay off to that, but it's also at the same time very 90s because this was like right when CDs were taking off and everyone was taking advantage of the CD as the new popular medium to mess with
Right.
people and stuff and to have longer album lengths, and I have to take advantage of all the different tracks. So yeah. On top of that, Marc quality, I gave an 8. Production quality, I think it's a great production. And then album construction, I give an 8. It could be better, just mainly because I think it's front loaded, and then it's the weakest in the last couple songs. So overall, for me, it's an 8.33 according to your score, but my gut feeling gives it an 8.5 to an 8.6. So it's actually just below what Opiate is.
It's just the total track average, basically.
Yeah. All right. So, Marc, we're gonna go quickly into you because I got to use the restroom. It happens.
Why do you want me to take it
We'll go-
away with
Yep.
Aenima?
With Aenima. So we skipped to 1996, 3 years later. We got their second album, Aenima, and Marc's gonna
Aenima,
go for it,
Aenima.
and I will be right back.
All right. So talking about Aenima, this one I never really connected all the. I listened to the music video for Stinkfist a lot. I think that's really the only one I've listened to before this sort of preparing for the stream. Which I think Stinkfist is, yeah, I describe it here as a bit bouncy. Just the riff has an interesting energy to it, and the way he dresses the lyrics. So I rank it as a 9 out of 10 for that song. Not quite perfect. There's that sort of later section on. I can't remember what happens in the song exactly, but in the music video, it transitions from the sort of like blue room to the like techno room. And I guess this one's about, sensation, being bored.
What
Just trying new things.
Which song are you talking about? Stinkfist.
The perils of getting a stinky
That's a
fist.
new thing for sure. Yeah.
Why is his fist stinky?
Yard
What a
work.
question. It's funny how obvious.
He's digging in the soil.
Yeah. Then we get to Eulogy. I give it an 8 out of 10. Not much to say about it. H period. I give a 9. It's a good song. I like the contrast. Like it uses the contrasting elements in a way that binds the song together, which isn't uncommon for Tool songs, but
It's definitely well done in H.
Mhm.
Like it's the soft to loud dynamics and stuff. And yeah.
Honestly, I think does this album explore that the most? Those sort of contrasting elements? Because
I
later
think
on in
so.
Third Eye, it has that sort of.
I think so, mainly because it's the best balance of how intense Undertow is as an album compared to where they're going with the more progressive elements. Like every single song is almost like a display of how dynamic they can be. That soft to loud, which was also it's a very much a product of the '90s. I mean, it was like that was like grunge in a nutshell. Was the mumble like verse, then
Yes.
the screaming, just exuberant chorus, and I think they definitely echo that here.
Then we get an intermission or useful idiot, right?
Yeah.
Stat. I always start these out. Typically, they max out at 7 for me. These sort of intermission type things.
Mm-hmm.
If they like sort of add to the aesthetic of the album, but I typically don't really like. There's a maximum of what I'll tolerate for how many intermissions there are, which
a 7 is like the best, is what you're telling me? That you'll give like one of these intermission tracks?
no, if I actually like the intermission track.
Oh,
but
did you
usually,
give Der von Satan an 8?
Yeah, I did because I just thought it was funny. I like it.
It's funny.
It's like the eggs of deviled eggs, I think, is what that says.
Yeah.
So it's just a deviled egg recipe. But
I'll explain it a little bit more. Yeah, but essentially,
I thought it was interesting. And then we get into My Shadow.
Yes.
Change.
Picking the scabs again, Marc.
I
Stepping
really
through.
do like this song a lot.
You get. Is this your first 10? Oh no, you gave
on
Sober a 10 on this album.
I gave Sober a 10 as well. But I actually, Tool is a band that is very consistently good, but I don't actually give them a lot of 10s, like compared to other bands that I like. We'll see that more later.
Could be due to how long you've been listening to them, right? Versus
Fair.
other bands. I mean, like, how many times in total do you think you've listened to this album?
3.
3?
No, 4.
See,
because we listened to it on the road.
Yeah.
Going through West We Go.
Yep. West We Go, Louisiana, the most creative name for a city. But yeah, see, and that could be it. You might need to. This is definitely a snapshot for you. Like, I'd be curious if your opinion of these songs and this album changes over time.
Like the only,
but maybe
song
that's
I've
just the Tool fan
off
in
this
me.
album that I listened to like a ton is Stinkfist. Right,
it's a good pick.
Just because of the music video. Message to Harry Manback.
Another interlude.
Then, of course, everyone loves Hooker with a Penis.
That's your favorite surprise, right?
Yes.
Everything's going great, and then all of a sudden, what do you think that song's about, Marc? Ultimate Tool fan.
I think it's about, you enjoying a penis and then you realize it's a hooker this whole time.
The penis lied to you.
Yeah.
Or something along that.
I don't know if there's any more depth to it. 46 and 2, we could have talked about what that's about. We sort of skipped over it, but I sort of want to go back to it.
Well, if you want to
We'll talk
elaborate,
about it when we go through you.
okay.
When we get to you, we'll talk about it. Another intermission that's upfront about itself. Jimmy, I give a 7. Is that that's not an intermission, is it?
No, Jimmy's
Jimmy's an
intermission
actual.
is intermission is actually Jimmy, the main riff played in like over like a Casio keyboard, and then Jimmy's it's a very like down tuned and slower song. He mentions 11 and stuff, and yeah, I don't know. I love that. I love that song.
Have been
keep going though.
About his mother or something. I think I just pass over it. It may be like middle album fatigue. You know.
I mean, this is like an 80-minute long album too. It's.
And then we get to the Eggs of Satan, which sort of drags me back in because it's interesting. It's like what? Why are they speaking German? And then
there was some controversy surrounding it too because of that, and because of the militant feel of it. There were people who were like thinking it was a Nazi song.
Well, it's obvious.
Well, I mean, obviously that's what they're intending it. That's what they're intending it to be. Yeah.
Then we get to Push It, which I like.
Would you rank
Push
that
It
one?
a 9?
Okay.
I don't write anything about it. I guess just because I thought it was
self-explanatory.
Self-explanatory.
It's one of those double entendres or whatever. In the lyrics, it goes from push it to push shit, depending on what
Push
stanza.
Push it or push it?
Push it. Push it real good.
Get it? Because it's poo shit? No, anyway. Cesaro, some ability is just babies. That's all.
Yeah, a little bit crying.
Then we get to Aenima.
Which is another 10.
Yes, I really did like
Very
Aenima.
nice. And this one is
the drum really is what
this is really
song, in my opinion.
This is really the Aenima song.
Aenima. Get rid of California.
Flush it.
Really, it's about
flush it down.
Cleansing the soul of all your worries. Because your worries are California.
I was say if that soul is America in the 90s, it's apparently needs to be cleansed of California. That's what's stuck in your colon.
Yes. Yeah, because I've been saying Aenima this whole time because that symbol, phonetically, the AE is pronounced Aenima, right? That's just how it's defined in like alphabets and stuff. Where it's used. We don't use it in English, I don't think. But
yeah, as far as I know. But then ions, you gave a 7.
Ions, negative ions, actually. You have to read the whole name.
Sorry.
It has an interesting sound, but nothing. It didn't like drag me out of the my intermission maximum. So.
Yeah, but then the next song,
but it is very
apparently, which maybe
Third Eye I love.
Yeah, which to me this was surprising because
I'm not sure why, but it's
for me Third Eye was a tough song to get into. So what immediately grabbed you about Third Eye?
It's that contrast that that sort of binds the song together because they start with the sort of he's talking. They start with the sound clip, the sound bite,
which is Bill Hicks. He's a comedian talking about drugs.
Who I've not listened to any Bill Hicks before, but I gathered what that was about. Then it went into the talking about the blue. It's sort of like very gentle almost. And
getting into like the actual verse.
And then it starts getting into the.
But even in the verse though, it's not very melodic. It doesn't have like a melodic riff. It's like kind of like a rumbling, you know,
Yeah, it's
sensation
disquieting,
more than anything.
but it's
It
sort of
doesn't.
more of a peaceful, like,
Yeah, it's like a hum.
yes. And then it sort of builds and becomes more discordant and more violent. And
Yeah,
then it goes back and forth between the sort of islands of calm where he's like, so good to see you. But even there, it's very like plaintive and emotional, right?
hmm
Like distraught. Like he's distraught, but happy. And then,
he doesn't know what he's seeing.
yeah, it's like he's experiencing something. Like, I guess this is about third eye and opening it probably through some drug experience or using drugs to try and repeatedly open it to achieve like nirvana, but it is
Like
flawed because you're using,
the DMT trip or something like that.
yeah, because you're using, well, I would think it would be like ayahuasca or mushrooms or something, but
Mm.
psilocybin.
hmm I think psilocybin is what is directly.
Those are the
That's
mushrooms.
what's directly mentioned in the song, and that they're using. It's like a weather report or a news report where someone's like,
Right. Tom
you
with the
know,
weather.
yeah, teenagers are using mushrooms to realize that we're all
Mhm.
oneself. Viewing each other from a third person view.
And
Here's
I think it's about that. It's
Tom with the
about,
weather.
because when he's like so good to see you, that's him unifying with everyone, right? And then
hmm
he crashes back down out of it. And that's why is he running away. And then I
hmm
guess
And
he just
what's the most
repeatedly
intense
tries to
part?
do it.
And that's the what's that line?
Prying open
Open
my
the
third
third
eye.
eye.
Prying. Yeah. He's very violently. And I think
Mhm.
that's the point, is that it isn't a good way to achieve
I see.
worldly peace.
He's forcing it.
He is forcing it with drugs. So it
Uh-huh.
is, if
It's
you were
almost like
like
a bastardized view of
Buddhist
it.
or talking about actually achieving nirvana, this would be a very like almost brutal, and the song itself is a brutal form of achieving peace with yourself and the world, right? Through
That's a cool
drugs.
interpretation of it.
That's what I got from it.
Yeah, I've not thought of it. I've
And
not thought about it like that.
the song pretty much just perfectly encapsulates that message to me,
hmm
which is why it's a 10. And maybe one of my favorite songs. Not my, maybe my favorite. Probably not. We'll see later
Well,
when
yeah, I was
10,000
about to say
days.
there is a your top 5 Tool song or top 3 at the
I
end.
haven't collected that yet, but
We can You can just go with your gut when we get to the end, but
yeah, I think I can.
just to give you a heads up, and really anyone who's watching who wants to put what their top 5 are. But yeah, well, so what else is your how else did you end this? But real quick, it's up to Thralls. Nick, what's going on, man? Cheers. You're a big Tool fan, right? I think I'm remembering that correct. But how else did you rank or how did you explain your final score here?
I mean, I didn't really. It's 8.2, 8.3, and then
Mm-hmm.
album art 7. I sort of don't like this. It's very messy and industrial ish,
Yeah.
which I'm not the biggest fan of, but it helps. It fits the theme of the sound of the album, right? The album has a lot of those industrial sounds and is very messy and rough in places, like
Mm-hmm.
intentionally messy, right? Where they add
Like during
ions, they add
the third
these
eye, all the interludes.
the interludes, Die Erevan, Satan, Message to Harry Manbeck. I mean, all of it really just adds to the sort of that flavor, I guess. I like the production. I think it was well designed. I think they executed exactly what they intended. It's not a 10 out of 10 because it's not like my perfect production, what I would like the most, but I think they did what they wanted, which is why I have a 10 album construction, because I think they achieved exactly what they wanted with this album, basically. So that's
What's your overall score?
8.7.
Okay. All right, so I didn't get a chance to do this earlier because ran off to the restroom. But
It's my turn to do that.
Yes, so I will take over, and I'm going to show off what I got as far as physical goes. So this is CD, and honestly, this makes the album cover so much better. It's a lenticular cover, so I mean it moves, so you're literally seeing a screen, and I mean obviously it's supposed to be like the TV screen kind of, and I don't know, I love that, and the booklet itself is supposed to mirror that, where you can put the booklet through this lenticular cover to get different images and stuff. And another one in the CD tray, we got the Western United States with Arizona getting its bay over here. And to me, that's cool. So I'm definitely a fan of the album cover. And we also have a very flexible person over there, and you can just guess what they're probably doing. I forget, she's a well-known, I don't remember the name of a person who can but very flexible. But yeah, there we go. We got the CD, and then somehow I was able to score this on record. And I never thought I would be able to find this album on record. Yeah, Tyler's right. It's the Contortionist. But this is on Zoo Entertainment, which was Tool's original label before they jumped to Volcano as their record label. And there was definitely some dispute about like copyright and ownership. So I don't necessarily know how it pans out. And I don't know if this is like an actual original or if it's a bootleg, but it says it came out in 1996 with Volcano Entertainment and Zoo. And yeah, it's a double LP, and I absolutely love this thing. Like, look at the inner sleeves too. So we got there's one, there's part 2 of side A, and there's another one with the Contortionist. And there we go, Mark.
What is this?
That's Bill Hicks right there. So I have Aenima on record.
Oh.
And actually, I picked this up for $15 because on the second LP, there's a defect. I don't know if you can see it. Do you see that that little bite out of it right there?
No.
Oh, you don't?
No, I don't.
Well,
oh no, I do.
There's
there
an edge.
is.
There's an edge missing.
Yeah, I just saw it right now.
So it's not necessarily complete. And when you play,
the first song,
either part of the first song for the second LP, it's kind of fucked up. But guess what? The first song are on both sides are the interludes. One is Ions, and one is the Der von Satan.
I guess that's the benefit of interludes.
Yeah. So all the other actual songs play fine. So yeah, happy to have this on LP as well as CD, because I will not make any bones about it, or there will be no surprises here. This is my favorite Tool album, period.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of my favorite albums ever, period. Just, I'm going to do my best to overhype it as much as possible, essentially. Like, it's single-handedly one of my most important and favorite albums. I can't help but, be hyperbolic when talking about it. A lot of the songs in here, I think, are, near perfect. And yeah, this is my second Tool album I got after Undertow, and it was a lot quicker for me to like kind of dive into overall. Like, unlike Undertow, this album was a lot more than just the singles, and the deeper cuts is where I truly found my love for this release. And I just enjoy how the album flows overall. I can't really find a single fault in it. So with that being said, let's go to my Excel spreadsheet. So here, you're going to notice a very common number, and that number is
9.
Is 10.
Oh, it's 10.
It's 9. 9. 10. I mean, so Stinkfist, I give like a 9.
I give it a 9 too.
It's a great opener. It's a great opener. I think it's great. It's very straightforward, very probably a very good bridge between what Undertow was to what Aenima is going to be. Like, it's got that angst in just heaviness of Undertow, while still at the same time it's a bit more complex. And then we get to Eulogy, which, holy shit, I think Eulogy is just an absolute amazing song. A 10, and one of those songs I will give an 11 or a 12 if I could. This is when the hyperbole comes in, and I can't help it. It's, I don't know, it's a very biting commentary on political figures. I just love the dynamics of this song, because once again, it's very much from the perspective of the people voting these people in power, essentially. And I think them looking for someone to believe in, and then whenever it's time to tear that person that they believe in now, whenever it's time to tear them down, that's when the song, becomes extremely heavy and extremely intense, and it gives me chills every time, because it's, for like the first 5 minutes, it's one thing, and then the last 5 minutes of the track, it's an entirely different song, and it's just very scathing and filled with anger. And I absolutely love Eulogy. So, because it's like, you said, it's talking to these political figures. You said you'd be, ready to die for us. So then let's do it. Now's the time. Put your money where your mouth is, essentially. So to me, it's 10 out of 10. And then H, period. 10 out of 10. And Mark, this is actually my favorite Tool song. This is
Really?
This is like a 15 out of 10, 12 out of 10. I love it. I think it packs so much. It packs so much emotion, so much depth, so much just variety in only like a 5-minute package. It's perfect to me in every single way. I love the lyrical content of it too. So H is the middle initial for his son, who was born like kind of before this album was released. So essentially he's talking about, and of course this is all like peak Tool fandom, right? We're
discussing theories, or
yeah,
we
yeah.
know
No, I mean, we know, like, he essentially said that when he was asked, he was like, my son's name is, first name H. Nuff said, essentially. So he didn't elaborate further, but he said that the abbreviation, yeah. But essentially, it's about, I think, you as a person changing throughout your life and realizing that your old self is no longer compatible with who you're trying to be and where you're going. And essentially, you have to choose one or the other. And you're almost like two different entities, and one has to kind of die, more or less. And it's up to your choice in that moment. I don't know, because it's talking about you're considerately killing me, and that's one of the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the same time, it's like, I have died and I will die. It's all right, I don't mind. And then the chorus part is, I am too connected to you, slip away, fade away, days away, I still feel you touching me, changing me. And I mean, I kind of still view that as, it's like your old self and maybe your old habits impacting you, but maybe it could also be, that of having a child and how that
I think
can
most
affect
likely
you
it's
as a
the
person.
child one.
Yeah,
I
but
don't
then
know.
as a Tool fan, I can interpret it how I would like, and
Well, anyone can
if
interpret anything
yeah.
however they want, but that doesn't mean it's a correct interpretation.
Well, Mark, to me it is. So that's
To you, it's an interpretation,
to me it's an interpretation.
and it's a valid interpretation, but it's not correct.
All I know is that part where it goes into the clean singing of I don't mind, and then all of a sudden, like, the drums come in and it just really picks up. Gives me chills every time. I absolutely love this song. As I said, favorite Tool song. So 10 out of 10. Useful Idiot is the interlude, but I like it because on the LP, it's supposed to stop, right? But for a Useful Idiot, they have it so it will spin endlessly, and you can never tell when because the song doesn't actually end. It's like an infinite circle. Yeah. So it'll just keep doing it because it's meant to be the sound of a record skipping. I don't know. I enjoy that. And then
That does add
46 and 2. Perfect song. One of their most overplayed songs, but still somehow a perfect 10 out of 10. Love the dynamics. And then once again, to mention Danny Carey, dude is a drum god.
Mm-hmm.
The closing drum piece for the song is just amazing, where it's building up and he's doing all these crazy fills and stuff. And he will, this is the first instance of him doing the fills that I can tell, but he will often reuse a lot of that drum technique in future albums and songs to great effect. But I think this is the first song where, the band really comes together around Danny Carey as a drummer to just close out a track in just an expert way. So 46 and 2 is just perfect. Was there anything else you wanted to add? Because I know we mentioned briefly.
It's about sort of what you were talking about with H, which is it's about change, and it's about
46
the change, sort of replacing yourself and becoming something more afterwards. And it's using 46 and 2, which is the genome, right?
Your number of chromosomes.
Yeah, there was a genome theory where you go from 44 and 2, which I think is what we have now, the human race, to 46 and 2, which is 46 autosomal genomes and then 2 sex chromosomes. And
just
the shadow would be, I think it's from like the ego, the id, the superego. The shadow is beneath those, and that's where like change comes into your personality. So
is the shadow the pushing you towards the change?
It's like it's like a shadow version of yourself that changes you. Is what I know.
The song is powerful, and I think
I took a psychology course for extra credit once, and this is So
You did it so you could talk about Tool.
this is the first useful thing I've said out of that course.
Yeah, 46 and 2. If anyone were to ask for like a first Tool song to listen to, I'd probably either pick Sober or this one. But this one would probably be the most accurate for what they are as a band. And then Message to Harry Manback is another interlude, but it's actually a voicemail that someone left Maynard's roommate, who was a member of the band Green Jelly, if anyone is familiar with them. But it was like it was some dude from like Portugal or something who was visiting, and some shit went down, and they ended on bad blood, and this was the voicemail that he left him. And I just like how they doctored it up with like the piano. There's seagulls in the background and stuff. It makes me think of some kind of like Goodfellas mob boss kind of movie or something. He's essentially saying that all Americans are going to die of cancer. Pleasant stuff. But I like it. It's good. Then we get Hooker with a Penis, which Marc, you already called it. Great song. About prostituting yourself. Maynard says, "I sold my soul to make a record." So it's essentially it's about him meeting this fan who said that they sold out after releasing Opiate. Like he thought Undertow was a sellout album in comparison to Opiate, and so this is like a fuck you essentially to that, and I guess to the whole concept of artists having to answer to the whims of a fan, and how they view or idolize what an artist was.
Fairly early for a sellout album.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like,
their first actual album is just a sellout album.
Mm-hmm.
I guess so,
But when you think about it, like they did get significant airplay from Undertow, and were actually on MTV and stuff because of the singles. So this this fan that Maynard so scathingly calls out definitely felt, that they had sold out. But I like the very Undertow-esque energy and just how angry and pissed off the song is. But then at the same time, it still feels a bit more progressive and adventurous with the songwriting. So it's a 10. I think it's perfect for that kind of song, and lives rent free in my head.
Intermission is a 10?
Intermission's a 10. I love it. The do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. It's essentially the first riff for Jimmy, but just on the Casio keyboard. And yeah, I've listened to that song by itself just for the purpose of listening to it, just because it's quite catchy and has a very different polka kind of feel.
I mean, I rank it the same as Jimmy, so.
But Jimmy's a 10, so I rank it also the same as Jimmy.
That's what I'm saying.
Marc, so Jimmy is a sequel to Prison Sex, apparently. It's the continuation of the person who experienced, that they talked about in that song, just as an adult, and how they're experiencing trauma going forward. And to me, it's just an extremely dark, brooding song that I love how bass heavy it is, because this is not up here. It's all really down here and low. And I think I told you about the memory I have of just driving through a Mississippi fog, which is like you can see a couple feet in front of you to this song. And it was just perfect. It hit perfectly. I definitely love Jimmy. And then Die Irre von Satan or whatever it's a recipe for Mexican wedding cookies
with no eggs.
And it says and no eggs. That's the important part. There's apparently a spell that you say in the middle of it. Is salabim, is salabam, or something like that. That is supposed to help it cook without the eggs. But it's So that one's easily an 8 just for it sounds so intense and ominous without being that. And then Push It, I think, is a great sign of where they're actually going. And really, it's the first view into what Lateralis will be. But at the same time, it doesn't abandon the intensity of, Aenima and this current album that they're on, and still fits perfectly well within it. And it's just, very drawn out and progressive in the beginning, but then towards the end, it just picks up the intensity. And I just love how it ends. It sounds like a destructive relationship that is just veering and careening towards something bad. I don't know if that's exactly what it's about, but that's what it sounds like to me.
But is it?
But is it? I don't know. What is it? You tell me. And then Aenima. Oh yeah. Push It or Puss Hit?
Puss Hit.
Puss
It's
Hit.
a Puss Hit. It's not poo. It's not poo shit either.
All in the eye of the beholder. But that's another example. Their double entendre usage is the push it.
This whole album is one.
Push shit. Yeah. Yeah. Which
Aenima,
I think I meant to
Aenima.
mention, because you mentioned it earlier, but like the whole album name, because Aenima, Anima, is the soul, the spirit. Aenima, of course, as we know, is getting the cleansing. So it's, yeah.
Well,
this whole album does feel like
to be specific,
like that.
Anima in Latin with the Latin alphabet is spelled with this AE symbol. That's how it's spelled in Latin.
And it still means the spirit?
The spirit. It only, yeah.
Well,
the Aenima one is what they intended, I believe. Or, they intended to be a double entendre. Right.
So then we get to the actual Aenima song, which is based on a skit that Bill Hicks did about Arizona getting, beachfront property when California bit the dust and,
I guess Nevada
the Teutonic plates. Huh?
No one cares about Nevada anymore?
No, yeah. Well, not in this song. I would go to Reno specifically if there was a disaster that gave beachfront property to Nevada and Arizona. But man, you gave Aenima a 10, and I salute you. This is easily a 10, and probably my third favorite on the album, or fourth.
Actually, it's my second favorite.
It's H, Eulogy, 46 and 2, and then Aenima. But I love the lyrics, the talking about,
No, it's my third favorite.
Who Maynard hates so much in California, and just learn to swim. It's such a visually impactful song. It sticks with you, and it's another one of those where it's the drums carries it in the first part, and then it just really opens up at the second half to this very progressive and more atmospheric side of Tool that they're going to be heading in. And it's
one of their successful,
beautiful,
repetitious songs. Like they repeat themselves a lot in this song, which sometimes I like and sometimes I don't like, depending on how it's done. But
it's carried by that breathing sound. It sounds like breathing to me. But and then I think Third Eye is a 9, and actually, real quick, Ions is a 9 too. And actually, the first time I heard this interlude, I was driving. It was a long road trip. I think I was driving like about 8 hours or something, and listening to this album really for the first time in the car. And that song came on, and I thought something was wrong with my car. Like I'm pretty sure I was in the middle of Alabama, and it hit, and I was freaking out for a little bit, and then I realized it was just the electrical storm for Ions, and there was no actual
Negative ions.
Negative ions. Thank you, Marc.
That's the full name.
Negative ions.
There's a minus sign right there.
There's no actual storm brewing in my engine, thankfully, and it was just the negative ions playing. But no, Third Eye is such a step away from like the rest of the album because of how abrasive it is. It almost sounds industrial to me.
Well, I think there's a lot of that industrial elements earlier in the album too.
But like on the interludes and stuff.
Yeah, the interludes.
Not during like the actual music, but like the interludes, it has that industrial feel. Yeah. But to me, Third Eye is slightly industrial and fairly abrasive, you know?
Mm-hmm. So what was your overall ranking for that?
Oh, yeah. I did skip that. All right, we're back. So Mart, I gave a 9. Production quality gave a 10. Album construction, a 10.
Yeah.
And then the overall score is a 9.48, which I disagree with.
That's pretty high.
It's a 10. It's perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. It's ideal. And Marc, look at this. I have the lenticular cover. I think you were using the restroom when I was showing this.
Yeah, where it shows through, or yeah, that one.
That makes the album artwork look a lot cooler to me.
It's a cheap gimmick. No.
Oh, it's the best gimmick that they've done. We'll talk about all the
gimmicks. That is true.
We'll talk about all the gimmicks shortly, but that's the best one. So
because it's unobtrusive as gimmicks go.
Last words for this album. I can confirm that this album it's just as potent now to me as when I first heard it about 15 years ago. I still get goosebumps for all the same songs that I used to. You know, I wasn't sure how it would hold up, but honestly, it's still perfect. And one of my few albums that I legitimately can't find a flaw in, you know, for most of the songs. And I do want to highlight that this is the perfect representation of Tool with that the double entendre humor and just like the lighthearted tracks. I mean, it's a little stupid at times because of the interludes. It's a little, even with like some of the song titles and the lyrics and stuff. And I just like, it doesn't take itself seriously. Like it does at the same time, but then, I mean, like with tracks like Eulogy and H, that sounds serious. But then with tracks like Aenima and
Stinkfist,
Third Eye and Stinkfist, it doesn't sound serious, right? So it's just a good balance between. So and also all the intermissions. Like I really like the interlude tracks here. I think they add to the album overall, and to me they separate out the individual parts. Like, you know, the first part of the album is Stinkfist to Eulogy to H, and then you get your first intermission. So that's like a little break. And then you get, you know, 46 and 2 to the next intermission. It essentially, to me, it helps break up like almost an 80-minute long album that would be too long without these intermissions.
It would be shorter though.
But it would feel longer. I think it would feel longer. It would be shorter, but not in feeling. So anyway, that's it, man. That's a 10 out of 10 right there. So, okay. From there, we're going to our next album, which this is the first big gap in years for Tool with releasing music. So we go from 1996 to 2001 with their album Lateralis. And just a quick note, this is in the Napster era. So they actually released a fully fake album on Napster to throw people off. I don't remember the name of it right now, but
what's Napster again?
The file sharing website. Showing how young you are, Marc.
Yeah, I mean, I was like,
I don't even remember Napster.
How old was I? 4?
This would have been 2000, man. Yeah, you would have been like 3. You don't remember Napster? Oh well. But so they released a fully fake album and fake names and stuff on Napster. And then after releasing that, they announced officially, like the next month, their new album, Lateralis, was coming out. So I want to show off this packaging real quick
Is that
because
the original
this is the
artwork?
original CD, yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, this is either the artwork or
Because I found the. Oh yeah,
that's the artwork.
That's okay.
Which, dude, I mean, this is probably one of the best packaging. I mean,
I do
so
like
it's
that
it's the
packaging a
booklet,
lot.
but then you open it up and you're peeling it away.
That layeredness to it is very cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is
Sort of brings to mind like
this
an
is top
anatomy
tier.
textbook, but using it for like chakras and Buddhism or something.
Yeah, and then we get to the core.
Yeah, that's a Buddhist symbol, I believe.
Do you know what for?
Not really. No.
Let's just assume it's the soul, right?
I could look it up. It says
the Aenima. We got Jimmy here. Cheers, Jimmy. Thanks for watching, man. Are you a big Tool fan, or what is your extent with this fandom? This is definitely cool packaging for sure. Like, and on the back, it's interesting because it looks almost like an elemental table or something like that, or like a chart for like a grid. So yeah, this one came out in 2001, and to me, I'm gonna just talk about it real quick before you dive in. If you talk to any Tool fan, this is probably the album that they're talking about. This is, in many people's eyes, the ultimate Tool album, the one that kind of gets overhyped the most and discussed the most. Like, this is the song that goes into the Fibonacci sequence and has the closing track of, like, it's 3 different songs in one, reflections and triad and stuff. So this is definitely like the ultimate Tool album in a lot of people's eyes. So, and cheers, Jimmy. We just finished talking about this album, and this is my personal favorite right here. It was to me, this one was easy. One of the first. It was the second one I heard from them, to Undertow, and definitely was an easy favorite. But Marc, are you ready to dive into Lateralis? Or are you still looking up?
Yeah, I was looking up it's called the Vajra symbol? Vajra.
Oh,
I don't know.
How do you spell that? FAIDRA?
VAJRA.
Interesting.
And it says something about stability and solidity of Mother Earth. It's related to the swastika.
Ah.
Which is a Buddhist symbol.
You gotta show off the CD too. The CD was always cool.
Oh yeah, with the little eyeballs. Are those eyeballs?
Hell, yeah,
the little eyeball flames. Yeah.
Yep.
Which I believe is like. I always got the feeling, just from this recent listen through, that these next Tool albums are more serious.
This, in
terms of like,
yeah, this one especially. We'll dive into 10,000 Days later, but this one is their most serious up until the current one, I think.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna put you on blast for Lateralis, and I will be right back.
What?
Sorry. Nature calls.
All right. So we start off with The Grudge, which is I quite like it. I give it a 9 out of 10. I didn't do much digging into this song. Mainly, I just sort of felt like it was apt for the title. It conveys a grudge well, is all I'm saying. That's about all I have to say about it. Eon Blue Apocalypse is short, interlude-esque, so I give it a 7. The Patient, I give an 8. And again, I lose my verbosity. Didn't write anything down. A tragedy.
What you not write down something for?
The Patient.
Oh. It's all good.
I give it an 8. Mantras, I guess it's an interlude. I'm not really sure.
This is the album where the interludes are almost not interludes.
Yeah.
They're actual just parts of the song that for some reason Tool decided to be like, that's not the song. You can skip to the song if you want.
Yeah.
Even though they're synonymous. And
yeah, when they start blending that well into it, I sort of would rather than just have it be part of the song. But,
yes. Agreed.
Schism is a great song. I quite like it.
I know the pieces fit because I saw them fall away. Something like that. Mildew and smoldering.
Mm-hmm. It's very, one of my favorite motifs. It's very repetitive in a sort of meditative variation. Yes.
Very nice.
And we get to parable and parabola.
Mm-hmm.
Which for some reason I have a hard time telling apart.
Well, it's another example of the interlude that's not an interlude. It's just the opening part of the song.
Give those an 8. We get to the next, maybe the best songs on the album, Ticks and Leeches and Lateralis. Ticks and Leeches is first.
Yes. What do you remember about Ticks and Leeches, Mark? I know you don't have any notes, but you must remember something. Damn it.
Man, my brain is dead.
How much whiskey do you have in your cup?
None. I'm just a little tired.
Yeah. But it's all good. I will dive into it. But
yeah, I'm having to
10 for both Ticks and Leeches and Lateralis, though, which
10,
Lateralis is the song with the Fibonacci sequence, as every Tool fan will tell you.
Mm-hmm.
They thematically wrote the main riff to be the Fibonacci sequence, and something about the syllables too, like because they're talking about colors. It's like red and white then came to me.
Yes,
and it's all following that natural occurring sequence. So there we go.
Mm-hmm.
Had to mention that for it to be an official Tool stream.
Of course.
We're good. We're good now.
You know, some things are so obvious they don't need to be written down. So,
but they have to be said.
Disposition is an 8. I think personally, so I gave it an 8, and it's not usually to my taste, right?
Mm-hmm.
The disposition of the song, Disposition.
Well done.
Is that was is I normally don't like laid back songs. Is literally just what I wrote, but felt that I might as well say it out loud. Reflection. I can't remember any of the songs right now.
Yeah, that's fair with Reflection. Did you give it an 8 as well?
I give it a 9.
Oh, a 9.
I say sick
Okay.
bass line and bass line or whatever.
Yeah,
good chorus.
That one's the one that's talking about the weather change. Watch the weather change and stuff, and then really builds up.
Right. Can you sing the chorus? Do you remember what it is? Because I can remember. I just cannot remember. My memory is not functioning right now because of
the StreamYard being on.
No, I'm tired. I'm drinking coffee right now to try and stay awake.
Oh, dang. It's late.
Well, also, I've been waking up at 6 for the past week. So.
You'll have to give me a second. Talk about the rest of the album, though, while I'm looking it up.
What are you doing? Okay. Triad is atmospheric, and then I sort of think this peters out towards the ending, like just with these two ending pieces isn't very strong, in my opinion.
It's funny you feel that. That's my ultimate critique of this album, honestly.
The best stuff is sort of in the middle.
Something like that.
Yeah, so then we get to 8.38. Album art is an 8. Very good. Production quality is an 8. Nice and solid. Album construction is a 9. I think it's a little weak on the end, but the first half is very nice.
And what's your overall score?
8.5.
Okay. Solid. So, I mean, to me, is that higher than what you gave Aenima?
No. Just lower.
Aenima is still a little bit higher. Okay.
You may find we agree. But
we might we'll find out, I think.
Now
we will.
I don't have it as a 10, but it may be my favorite. You never know.
I feel like you don't have any albums eclipsing the 9, so that's.
You mean going above 9?
Yeah, above to 9 or above. We'll see, but
we'll see.
No.
Aenima was 8.8, 8.7.
Dang, that's pretty good. So yeah, with Lateralis, to me it's a tough album because it's without the doubt the most well-known Tool album. I mean, it's the one that the average Tool fan will recommend, essentially. Over all the releases, it's got the most, I think, lore behind the individual songs, whether it be the Fibonacci sequence about like the title track or the final song, which you didn't mention, the final interlude at the very end, Fap the Ode or whatever.
I thought I said that. It was.
Did you?
I thought I said Fap the whatchamacallit is a little weak. I didn't.
Well, but yeah, you did. But it's literally it's this guy who radioed in to a radio show. He supposedly worked at Area 51 and was talking about like the fact that aliens had already invaded Earth and were, within a couple years of actually, successfully.
They have a more interesting version of that on the next album. So,
yes, they do. So it's definitely a theme that gets explored again, but yeah. So this is definitely like, to a lot of people, the ultimate Tool album, I think. And to me, it's up there, but it's almost a little bit too obvious. Let's go ahead and dive into my spreadsheet. So we start with The Grudge. Come on, Mark, that's a 10. That's a fucking 10 out
I
of
think I give
10.
it a 9.
You did, which is an amazing rating. It's perfect, really, but it's not a 10. So, The Grudge it's really one of their
Well,
masterpieces.
you don't give Schism a 10.
No, I think I'll get the Schism. But The Grudge is one of those perfect songs where it's got everything. It's literally ranging from intense to quiet. It's got like the progressive elements. It's got the most aggressive elements, and then I love how the song builds throughout its runtime. You know, it starts out very melodic, and then there's these little drum interludes that kind of keeps it building before it gets to the main bridge section, and then there's the scream. Mark, do you know the scream?
Right.
It's literally almost a 30-second scream from Maynard in the middle part of the song, and it's probably one of the most blood pumping, like just adrenaline triggering moments in music I can think of. For me, it's amazing. I absolutely love it. And then the second half of the song from there on just keeps just going into the stratosphere of epic. Like that's when Danny Carey, the drummer, starts to like really build up his fills and stuff, and Maynard saying let go, let go, let go, like over and over again, and then he finally just screams let go, and then it just the whole song comes crashing down. And The Grudge is a perfect track. It's one of those 11 out of 10, 12 out of 10 songs for me. And we saw it live. And I can die happy now. It was good. The Patient is a more subdued track and really shows the actual nature of the album to me. And this is when I'll actually mention I think this album is more progressive rock than it is progressive metal. Like I think the metal elements are a little bit more stripped away. I mean, they're there. Like The Grudge is a metal song to me because of the intensity of it. But then the album overall, it might be a bit more towards progressive rock. And this is really when maybe the band became a bit more snobbish or unfortunately critically loved, right? Like the critics who were reviewing this were like, "Oh, it's art rock," and if you're being called art rock, that's probably not a good. Or it's not. It means you've lost your edge. At least a little bit. So I don't view this fully as a metal album per se. Like it's definitely leaning towards that progressive rock and modern progressive sound. And this is when like Kellen earlier in the stream mentioned that Tool was like what Dream Theater was for a decade earlier, like 1992, Images and Words, 2001, Lateralis. And I think it's because of this album, because of what this was for.
Wasn't Images and Words the second Dream Theater album?
Yeah, it was. So
Okay.
I mean, it's third Tool album, but I think this is the one that captured the majority of the fan base and the one that hit number one on Billboard first. So, and I think it's because it has more of that progressive, more laid back feel, and how they're structuring the songs with these longer intros that they still cut into interludes. I mean, Mantra is Schism, Parabole is Parabola. I mean, that's what it is. They didn't need to cut it, but
either actually cut it or have it as the same song.
And that is my opinion, and it does bother me. I'd almost rather there be the interludes from Aenima than
because those sort of flesh out the album with aesthetic ambiance, right? Sort of give a.
I think so. To go back to The Patient, I think The Patient is a good first stamp of what like the overall sound is. Like The Grudge I mean, it captures it well too, but it perfectly incorporates, what their sound was earlier. The Patient really is the new Lateralis tool, if you will. And there's that main riff in it, which is really heavy. But other than that, it's a very laid back song. But it's still a 9 out of 10. I still would happily listen to it any day of the week. Schism and Parabola to me are the actual overplayed Tool singles. They're the ones that have been just too often referenced, too often used, and I'm not tired of them because look, they're still all 9s, but it's does not carry the same weight as what like Sober or 46 and 2 from previous albums did.
I think Schism is the one I remember you playing the most.
I could believe that. Because Schism is my more favorite of the two. I just wish... So it ends with him kind of screaming, "I know the pieces fit." And then that's it.
Yeah.
I just wish he took it one step further. Because we know he can.
Fair.
But he doesn't. It's just like... He does that like... scream, but then he cuts it off short from what his full potential is. And I just wish it went a little bit more extreme into what the Grudge did,
because to me that song is almost intentionally
curbed, like
incomplete. Yeah, like it's
maybe
because the pieces don't fit. Have you thought about that?
I have not. I just want them to fit, Mark.
I know they fit.
Why don't they
know
fit?
He could have.
So so maybe it's that one missing piece is why it's a 9 out of 10 instead of a 10. But that one's the closest. And then Parabola is like a lot more high energy, but then at the same time, it blue balls you. Like, so there's this like really fast-paced chorus part, and it goes once, and then you think it's going to go a second time, but then it goes into this long, drawn-out, droney outro. And for the longest time, that bummed me out. Like, I just wanted him to go back into the main part, the main chorus. But I mean, I've grown to appreciate the outro because it still is like the choral arrangement. It's just a lot slower. So I don't know, and then we pick back up, man. Ticks and Leeches and Lateralis, as you said, are both 10s. This is where the heart of the album is. The heart of the album is The Grudge is the opener, and these two tracks towards the very end. Ticks and Leeches, that is the most Aenima style song, but then it's like Aenima through the lens of Lateralis. Mark, it's visceral. You got to listen to the song again. It's got like a very early 90s like angsty guitar riff for the chorus. It's like, this is what you wanted. This is what you're getting. That doesn't really...
I liked it when I listened.
That doesn't really capture it. That doesn't really capture it enough, but it's great, and it just is seething and filled with rage, and it's definitely the angriest song on the album, and it still is 9 minutes, and it justifies all 9 minutes of it. And then Lateralis is like almost the opposite, being the most laid back and adventurous kind of song on the album, playing with the Fibonacci sequence and like the most overly talked about track in Tool's history.
And I don't think it's that deep if the only thing you can say about it is the Fibonacci sequence.
And that sums up Tool perfectly. That's what it is. It's like, it's the crux of the song is,
I mean,
the final part is spiral out, keep on going, keep on changing. 46 and 2 just ahead of me, it's like it's exploring similar to that, I think. But then at the same time, I don't know, it's kind of a beautiful, evolving, changing song.
Yeah.
Like, it's very interesting and
I think
engaging to
it's a
listen
good,
to.
beautiful song, and I
And
don't think
it's
it
a
needs any more depth to it.
and it's a great track right after How Intense Ticks and
Yes,
Leeches is. Like,
that's true.
it's to me, it's perfect
They might be
right
both
after that.
pins because they're paired, right?
I think so. To me, there's an art to how you pace an album and how you place tracks next to each other.
Yes.
And that is a great placement, in my opinion. And then I give the last three songs, which are really just one song, but they unfairly divided into three songs, nines, disposition into reflection into triad. And it's really frustrating. Like, honestly, these might be eights instead of nines. It's just, why aren't
Yeah.
why I just wish they melded together
There's a
just
certain
a
dissatisfaction
bit
to it.
a bit better. Yeah. Like, I know a lot of people who view this as like the ultimate Tool closing track. I don't get it. Like, I feel like they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot by dividing it. They feel a bit more reserved. I get
feel like
lost.
Third
I
Eye
get
would be
lost
the
a little
ultimate.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Third Eye at least is more so than them. I definitely just I'm not able to follow along all three of them because it's like the um shit. Sorry, Disposition is not quite a full song. Triad is not quite a full song. Reflection is a full song, but then if you add, Disposition and Triad on either side, it becomes bigger. But then, I don't know, at the same time, is it worth it? Like, Reflection is definitely the best of the three, but to me, it doesn't quite measure up to what I think they wanted it to be and what this album really needed to, you know, hit home. To really seal the deal and make this a near a perfect album, like, which, if I feel like if you ask your average Tool fan, this is the 10 out of 10 album for them. And for me it's not quite. Your ranking, let's see, I give the album artwork a 9 out of 10, but honestly I could probably give that a 10 out of 10. I mean, I think the artwork is amazing, production quality perfect. Album construction, I give a 9. Like, I would maybe change some stuff. Maybe, as we just talked about, edit the final three songs and do away with this final interlude. I mean, I think it's cool because of the crazy guy talking about Area 51 being filled with aliens, but it doesn't need to be there. So I would give this album, truthfully, like a 9.75. So, I mean, it's a near perfect album and has some absolutely iconic Tool moments, and if I were to give someone like their first Tool album, I think I would still give Aenima, truthfully, but this would be a close second. So,
and yet you gave me Undertow,
and which was my first Tool album. Full circle. All right. So then there was some quiet and some peace in the Tool camp. Maynard went off and he was doing A Perfect Circle, which, Mark, if you haven't listened to A Perfect Circle, I would recommend it.
I think
they're good.
I think we've listened to it in the car once or twice, but I've never listened to it myself.
Their album 13th Step is perfect, or is really good. It's not perfect, but it's really good. And I think this is really between. Well, it definitely started between Aenima and Lateralis, but definitely between Lateralis and the next album, the band members started to really drift off and do their own thing, and they didn't really need to be Tool as much. Like I think they did the occasional tour and stuff, but they didn't need to be a producing band. So in 2006, we finally get their follow up, and we're talking about.
Well, that's not that long of a break. Is that not?
That's 5 years.
Is that the same or shorter than the previous break?
The same. It's the same.
Yeah. It would be the next one that's a massive.
It will be the next one. But still, people were very much waiting for this one. So 10,000 Days. And Marc, you do not like the little magnifying
glass. It looks
glass.
like an aviator or something. Like it's so stupid looking. I'd rather much just have that. Yeah, that's
You'd
perfect.
rather have that? You don't
that's
like
perfect.
But Marc, look. You the viewer, look, you're just supposed to do like this.
Give me glasses that are in. I know it wouldn't work because the lenses and all that stuff, but if those were like
you want like glasses that you can wear
the booklet. No, but if that little thing instead of being on the outside was an insert inside that you slid out, then I would have no problem with it.
And then the whole booklet's screwed up, right? Because it's just two images, right? So the glasses will work.
Yeah, I know. And it's just,
it's 2 images of everything.
It's a gimmick that's a bit annoying, but
I forgot to mention.
Once you get over the gimmick, that is.
I forgot to mention. Well, not necessarily gimmicks, but there's a certain artist that they started working with back on Lateralis.
Yeah.
Alex Gray is his name. So he's the one who. He's like
I like his art.
His art is pretty impressive. He does a lot of different like formats and stuff for it.
Like that's one of my favorite shirts they have is the Lateralis looking one with the eyeballs.
Oh,
not the the flaming eyes.
I would get that for sure. And I want to say so real quick to highlight this. So this is we got the 10,000 Days, and I am wearing 10,000 Days shirt, which
the 1,000
Marc got me. This is actually a bootleg. So I originally had this shirt, and of course I wore it to death. Holes all the way through everything, and I think you picked this up from eBay for like what, $15 or something?
eBay?
$20? Where'd you buy this from?
Probably maybe Kohl's or something stupid like that.
Oh shit, really?
I don't know. I don't think it was eBay. Or it was somewhere. It wasn't. I don't think it was eBay.
I thought this was like a bootleg shirt you bought.
It probably
off
was.
Of eBay.
But it was not that expensive.
But
I don't think I bought it off eBay.
I still like the artwork, and as I said, I like this artwork. I enjoy the glasses. I mean, they're a little stupid, but I mean, like having that on the inside of your album cover, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool, but
that's
you don't need the glasses for that, though.
No, you don't. You need the glasses for that one, and then look, there's the please use them safely. Don't use these glasses while you're driving. or talking to other people. Use of these lenses for any other purpose is not recommended and shall not result in any liability to Volcano, Sony, or Tool. So, I don't know. It's a gimmick. It's an interesting one. Okay, so 10,000 Days, 2006. Marc, you're ready.
Huh? Vicarious.
I
like this song a lot. Like the riff a lot. I like the stone cold look in the album artwork's eyes.
Oh yeah.
But no, Vicarious. I love the song. I love what it's about too, where it's about, like watching murder porn on TV or whatever.
Yeah. Just constant death. on the
Yeah.
news, essentially, and becoming desensitized. Which
Well, becoming even like living off of it through it, right?
which
More than desensitized.
hasn't it become so much worse with like reels and TikTok, and like you're able to just see
Yeah.
all the reaction videos and
Just a never-ending feedback loop of destruction, basically,
hmm I always
which
picture
is
like
what makes them feel alive.
the chimpanzee with like the pleasure button, just pushing it over and over again.
Hmm.
And yeah, but you're fully separated from it entirely at the same
And
time.
it's just really good, especially when it hits that bit when he says, I forget the line exactly. I thought it was when he's like, makes me feel alive, or when I need
Oh, I'm gonna
when
look
I
up
need to
these
watch
lyrics
you die, something like that. Watching people die makes me feel alive. I think it's something along those lines.
because I need to watch things die from a distance.
Yeah,
Vicariously, I live while the whole world dies. You all need it too. Don't lie.
yeah,
Is that it?
yeah. That's what I was thinking of. And then it goes into a sort of very an instrumental section, like a bridge or
Mm-hmm.
solo, guitar solo. I forget. Uh, Next is Jambi, which is a good song. I sort of
Jambi is what makes me think of the album artwork.
really,
Yeah, because it's about I get this idea of like a deity and like some like bigger than life figure, with its
Jambi to me
with
always
its
struck me as like
acolytes
a.
underneath.
To be honest, I sort of thought it was like a trailer parkish name, like Jambi, get over here.
Oh,
But
come on. Well, I
I'm
actually don't really know
serious.
what
I don't know.
the
I
name is
don't know what it's
referring to
about.
directly, but
I do wonder what it's about. But the first half of Jambi is I would give an 8. The second half I'd give a 10 when it sort of picks up.
uh-huh.
So I just even average it out to a 9.
Oh, and here we go. Wings of
Wings for
Marie.
Mary.
Yeah.
Marie?
Mary. Oh.
I don't know. Part 1. It's good. It's like a really long intro for the second part. But I don't know. I think that's sort of the idea since it's 10,000 days, it's a long time. And I'm not sure it would, if the second part would be as impactful without the first half. But on its
That's
own,
what I think.
it's an 8 out of 10. It just doesn't deliver on what it's promising, which is the point because the second half will deliver it. But still, that's why it has to be an 8 for me.
Mm.
Because the second half delivers on it, which is the 10. But the second half also has enough of the first portion. 10,000 Days has enough from Wings of Mary in the intro that you don't really need Wings of Mary necessarily.
So would you
like
would
if
you
it plays by
prefer
itself.
would you prefer it with or without? Like, do you think the album would lose anything without Wings of Marie?
I think it should be. I mean, I don't mind very long songs, so I think it should just be the same song.
Mm-hmm.
Like 2112 or something like that. But
2112 is also divided into multiple pieces
on a CD or something.
On a
or
record.
is it just one track? No, but is it actually multiple tracks? Because it's just
No, I don't think. I think it's just it's subdivided within it.
Yeah,
but
and
I
I'd
think
rather have something like that than
okay.
this.
I almost view that as the same thing. Like I almost see this as a tribute to.
But it's different because when I put everything on shuffle, it pops up separately.
But why would you do that? That's fair.
I mean, that's. If there was a way to like pair like bind things together and shuffle. Like I could like customize my songs and glue them together for playlists and such.
Mm-hmm.
That's an idea. But 10,000 Days may be one of the best. I don't know if it's my number one song by Tool, but it's probably in the top 5 for me.
Very nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a more powerful emotional version of the first one, and it resolves everything. That's, all the tension. Next, we get to The Pot, which is very catchy, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you to wave your finger?
You must have been out your head.
Yeah. I hold deep in muddy waters.
You practically raised
Is
the
that
dead. Yeah, yeah.
You must have been
The intro to The Pot
so
is great.
high.
I think it perfectly separates it, because to me that's how you separate the halves of the album, is the segue from the emotional intensity of Judith Marie to him saying, "Who are you?"
Mm-hmm.
And The Pot is obviously a lot more lighthearted. Like to me, it's Aenima reincarnated.
I don't know. It's
like, because it's got the double entendre. It's you pointed out to me when we were listening to it last time.
It's just about pot. Yeah, there's
like calling the
a lot
kettle
of
black.
pot
What are you doing?
references. The pot calls the kettle black. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Piss on my black kettle is the lyric.
Mm-hmm.
Kangaroo courts, and there's a whole bunch of stuff about where it's like all
They hung the
all
guilty
basically
with
a
the
bunch
innocent.
of wordplay, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah. And then it's still heavy too, and there's that very Meshuggah kind of breakdown in the middle, which I like.
Yes. Then we get into the sort of interludes before Rosetta Stone, or like the intro tracks, which again, to a certain extent I understand, because this is like context, but also sometimes I just want it to be bound together, just so I get the whole experience.
Yeah.
If I'm not listening to the full album and I'm listening to playlists or random playlists, which I do a lot. So,
see, to me, like Le Pan Conjuring, I would not include, but obviously Lost Keys is the opening to it. So, but you said that Le Pan Conjuring would still work, and I can see.
I thought they worked. I thought there was like a.
I listened to it earlier.
In a party with his friends, and they were all.
I get it. Yeah.
Like I don't know, at a bonfire doing drugs or something, and then Lost Keys is him coming out of it, right? And then he's telling his story in Rosetta Stone, which is just a really nice intro, especially paired with Lost Keys, where he's like, "Tell me everything," and then he just starts rambling nonstop. He's like,
wasn't he like, picture this?
Yes. And it's sort of just a sort of sound.
The lyrics to that song are just bass. Awesome. I love.
And then picks up and goes into the sort of high part where he's talking about they chose me, and he's like so top of the moon, and then he realizes he completely forgot, because he was so wound up in the fact that he was picked that he completely forgot what his task was, or his entire purpose. And then he's like, "That's so typical of me," because it's.
I just realized
this is one of those songs that is sort of tongue in cheek.
Yes, this is the humor. The humor is back. Like,
yes.
Ladder Alice was a bit more serious, but now somehow we're balancing very serious messages with like lighthearted songs about a stoner deadhead. So a great Grateful Dead fan getting kidnapped by E motherfucking T.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm with you on the song. You gave it a 10?
I give it a 10.
Nice.
Intention is a 7. I know we talked about that in the car a little bit.
Yeah.
But sort of just, especially coming out of Rosetta Stone, I was sort of just, eh.
Well, I think you kind of need that break anyway. To me, like from Rosetta Stone and even the pot, it is a nice intermission. It's still like 7 minutes, so it's not quite an intermission, but then
fair.
What did you give Right Into?
9. I just say it's good. It's good.
Nice.
It's a good song.
Uh-huh.
We talked a little bit more about what it meant exactly. Monkeys. Monkey fighting monkey.
Yeah, monkey fighting monkey.
Over
Over
land.
pieces of the ground. Watch them all divide it right into. So, I mean, it's one of those like obvious Tool songs. Most obvious,
Yeah.
But it's still good. And remember, there was that middle drum like tabla section where Danny Carey, amazing drummer once again, is doing tabla over just this building riff. So.
And then we get the closer, Vigente Tres, which I give an 8.
And Mark, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but there is a second way to listen to 10,000 Days, Wings for, Marie.
Okay.
Where you essentially, you loop it together, where you play part 2 underneath, then you play part 1 over part 2, and then after part 1 ends, it goes right into Vigente Trees. And it's Trace or whatever.
Because that would be part 3 or something.
Vigente. It's supposed to make it a lot. It's supposed to make it a lot more intense and impactful when you listen to it like
well, that means 23.
So, and that's the reason for that song being there. Or maybe I don't know. I will send you the link because of course it's on YouTube, like the full link song, but intentionally it was designed to be overlapped and messed with, by Tool fans to create their own version of it.
I have to look that up. I didn't know.
I've listened to it once or twice before, but I did not listen to it in preparation for this. So
yeah, I didn't know that.
And I forgot to mention it to you. But to me, it definitely makes their choices a bit more impactful when it comes to how they divided out the album and the inclusion of the final song, Vigente Tres, not Trees.
Yeah. The number 23, apparently, in Latin. If you remember Latin classes from way back in the day.
Of course I do. Why would I forget that?
Maybe
we're back.
It's dead.
It is, and I forgot it immediately. All right, so we're back to 10,000 Days, and
I didn't say. I give it a 9.2.
Oh, a 9.2. Damn, really?
Yes.
Okay, sweet. So for me, yeah, I found this album right after getting into Aenima. So it was Undertow, then Aenima took over everything, and then I found this album it was probably good 6 months to a year after I fully digested Aenima. So I think there's importance to having space when it comes to listening and to fully understanding an album sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're like really able to be impacted by an album. So I think because of it, I was fully ready to embrace a new Tool album. So when I found this one, it was just, man, right back into Aenima. And I think I really liked it because to me, this is bringing a lot of the aggressive and more intense Enema songwriting back. I think 10,000 Days is more of a metal album than Lateralis was. Like
Mhm.
10,000 Days at its core, I think is a progressive metal album with maybe progressive rock influence. Whereas Lateralis, progressive rock album with metal pieces here and there. So it was a lot easier for me to latch onto it, and I felt like a lot of the ideas were more fully carried through because of that. And I don't know, I just had a lot easier of a time getting into this album than I did Lateralis. So let's dive into my. There we go. There's my spreadsheet. So Vicarious, 10 out of 10. I think this is what Schism and Parabola from Lateralis kind of was aiming to be,
Mhm.
except through the lens of the album Enema. So it's like a bit more aggressive, a bit more abrasive, and it captures my attention a lot more all the way throughout, and it really builds throughout. Like I really like how the song starts and ends. Where I think I was saying with Schism, I wish it would have just done a little bit more. Vicarious does that. It does the extra step. It goes into the intense, like Maynard screaming, "My vicarious demise," and underneath him screaming that, Danny Carey is doing like double bass and stuff like that on the drums. And it's just intense, and I don't know. It it really feels, as destitute as what the lyrics sound, and kind of captures the emotional nature of the song. And I don't know, maybe I like the fact that this album is tackling a bit more concepts that are more low hanging fruit, you know?
I
Like
mean, I think
Vicarious is like living vicariously through like the TV porn essentially.
I think
And
to some extent, I suppose math in some sense seems is like hard to get into for some people, but for me, Lateralis is like the simple album because it's literally just about fundamental math concepts, which are basic, right?
but it's a simple
And
album, but it's maybe it's more
this is
boring
more
because of
interesting
it.
and complex. Yeah,
That's
exactly. That's
well,
what I
it's
mean.
so then we're in agreement, I
We're
guess.
in agreement.
Yeah.
You were just saying it's hard to get into because it's math, and I think it's just a little too basic,
Yes. Okay. So then
right?
we okay, yeah. So then we are in agreement. It's just
It's not as interesting as like a
talking about
commentary on the state of the news.
yeah. It from the year like 2005, which is like,
Yeah,
a year or two after we went to war in Iraq and stuff, and um
I mean, you know what they say: news never changes.
also that.
That's.
And then Jambi, I definitely enjoy
I am curious
Jambi.
about what
That's
Jambi is about.
so for me, you look it up right now, but for me, Jambi, I think it treads new ground for the band because it pushes straight into the progressive metal territory. It really dives right into it, and it's a very entrancing song. I like how you broke it up into two different parts when you were explaining it. I definitely agree, and to me, those two different parts are like two different perspectives of the same thing. It's like multiple viewpoints of a relationship between like a deity and its acolytes and lesser followers, essentially. And it's like it goes from like the followers and the acolytes being like, oh great, oh great one, where are you and when can we see you? We
I love
seldom
what it's
see
about.
you. What's going on? And then the final portion or the final half of it is the deity coming about and essentially being like, silence, leech, fuck off, essentially. But what did you find the meaning?
I did find what Maynard has said is the meaning, which is so Jambi is a genie from the TV show Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Oh my god.
And it's about Jambi
Oh,
and Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Jesus
The entire
Christ.
song is a joke.
Oh my god.
But it sort of
Fuck
brings
you,
back
Maynard.
your anima point, right?
Yeah.
Because they just are not as serious.
Yeah, but then at the same time, it's like if you're just brown nosing or whatever, you're like, oh man,
it's very easy to find depth where there is none, or to not notice depth where there is some.
and that's like the whole
That's
joke.
the whole
So that's
Tool, like the
Yes.
whole Tool monetary strategy is playing around with puddles of depth.
yes. So to me, Aenima is like the initial playing around, there really isn't too much. And then Lateralis, I feel like they really tried to actually dive into it. And then this album is them jumping back out and being dickish again, if you will. And like me, I did not realize that about Jambi. It's partially ruined the song for me, but then partially has also made it better. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting how that works.
Yeah. So this is totally summing up how I'm feeling about this album perfectly, about it being like a revitalization of the energy that they brought to Aenima, but channeled through some of the progressive stuff that they had with Lateralis, and them just essentially fucking with you because you're a stupid diehard fan who is gonna
reads too deeply into things.
Exactly. When there's nothing really to read too deeply into, unless you want to.
But sometimes there is, like Third Eye or
but they're
46 and 2,
they're not going to tell you.
10,000 Days or.
Yeah. So then we get from there, like, which I did not realize that was a maybe tongue-in-cheek song, but 10,000 Days is definitely not. And to me, this is the ultimate song on the album and really the centerpiece of it and what holds it all together and what really makes the album work. I mean, they named the album after this song. So 10,000 Days, of course, is a reference to Maynard's mom. I got to talk about this. Sorry. So she suffered a stroke when Maynard was, young.
11 or something, I think.
And essentially was, immobile, like left to like a wheelchair or, bed rest and a shell of a life, essentially, because of that. And she suffered through this for, it was like about 33 years, I want to say, something like that.
Oh, let me just quickly convert it because it's 10,000 days.
It's it translates to 10,000 days. If Marc can divide 10,000 days by 365, we'll figure out how many
roughly.
years.
Technically, it would be 365.25.
And it's not perfect, but
no, it is perfect. Okay. It's 27.3 years.
Okay, so not 33, but 27. Maybe he's 33 to mirror Jesus,
Well, that's how long he lived.
Exactly. Total. Exactly. Maybe they did that for the marketing of the album.
Did they say 33 years?
For some reason, 33 is what came to my mind, but 27.
Maybe you're
27,
just thinking it's 33 because of Jesus, and it's not actually from Tool. I don't know.
This could be true. But anyway, she lived, essentially like 27 years like this. And this was a big point of contention for Maynard and probably shaped a lot of his lyrics and stuff and anger at religion. I know a lot of people are probably Perfect Circle fans. Mark, have you heard the song Judith
No,
from Perfect
maybe.
Circle? Because
I don't know.
that's the first name of that's his mom's first name is Judith, and it's essentially a very angry, pissed off song about how his mom still believes in God, even though she was given had a stroke and can't do anything essentially.
Mhm.
And he's like, what the fuck? This doesn't make any sense. Fuck you, fuck your religion, essentially. But then this is him coming back after all of that anger, and kind of understanding where she's coming from, and forgiving her God that she believes in, and just accepting all of it. And it's
a very Christian thing to do.
it's a very Christian thing to do. It's it's kind of beautiful, man. I really can't over express how different I think this song is to the rest of Tool's tracks. I mean, it's a beautiful centerpiece for the album, and
Mhm. I think I did say it was
Mhm.
one of the beautiful songs, and not many metal songs really in general are beautiful. But
This one definitely is. I mean, it centers around the
Mhm.
relationship between Maynard and his mother's passing specifically, and you can really feel its cathartic nature to me. It's honestly, there's only a couple other songs I can think of that are as cathartic as this one. And the tone of forgiveness and acceptance are unmistakable and I don't know, completely unknown to this band to this point. So I like that it's broken into two parts. I think the first part is like a preview ahead of like the climax, and it kind
Mhm.
of separates out the fact that the final climax is the final, like, the stages of grief. It's the anger and frustration in that part, and then finally acceptance at the very end.
Mhm.
And I think it's perfectly captured by the band at that point. Like the drumming, once again, to highlight Danny Carey, it just he goes off perfectly in that same way when I described like the 46 and 2 drum performance. He does that exact same like drum fill in this, and it's
Mhm.
amazing. And yeah,
I noticed.
the climax is one of my favorite moments in music for sure. It gives me chills. I mean, he's like, um, fetch the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Tell them that your
Yes.
angel has ascended. Give me my wings. Like it's essentially him wishing the best for his mother wherever she's at.
Mhm.
And yeah, man, gives me chills. So I really like the lyrics too. The lyrics are top notch. So that's a 10 out of 10, 12 out of 10, 15 out of 10. I don't know. And then we get to the pot, which is a good segue into the second half of the album, which I think is bringing back the humor once again that
Mhm.
Jambi kind of had and that Aenima kind of had. And yeah, it's a good start for the second half of the album. And Rosetta Stone is once again great. Another double entendre song.
Is it
Like the Rosetta Stone, right?
Rosetta
So
Stoned? But
yeah,
I mean,
so Rosetta Stone is the unlocks everything, but Rosetta Stone,
I would have just called
you
that a pun. I guess
okay, I get it. All right, fine.
a
That's a
double
pun.
entendre is.
That's a pun.
I always thought double entendre was more for uh, like multi-interpretive ways method.
Hmm.
Like if you could interpret if it has two meanings and both apply, and usually
Yes.
one's like risque or whatever. want to call it.
So I guess it's probably more of a pun. Then I will give you that.
I
But
guess
it's good, and I enjoy just how that song evolves and changes throughout it, and in the lyrics. It's an easy 9 for me. Intention, I like. It's an 8. It's a good breath of fresh air. It's nothing like different, but it's solid for what it is. But that's a double entendre, right? Intention spelt like
yes.
with tension, but also I feel tension. So, and then right into to me it's a great closing song. It's doesn't quite capture the intensity of earlier tracks, but
Well, intention's a word, right?
oh, maybe
Like not TION, but as they spelt it there, that's an actual word.
really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. Here, one sec. Read the definition. I'll be right back. Sorry.
Well, intention, the one you're thinking of, means what's intended. And then intention is, basically, literally like tension, like your intention. And it's usually like the internal binding of something. I think it's used in logic for like something that binds like the internal cohesiveness of a concept. I'll tell Logan this again when he comes back. And here it is. Yeah, so intention, I looked it up and then also just from what I thought it was. It basically means literally what it says, intention, like it's intention.
Okay.
And it's the internal bindings of a concept or idea. So it's like the stuff which is holding everything together that's constantly in tension. Right?
Mm-hmm. And does it snap?
The song might be about that. I don't know. But
I mean, it's a very peaceful song. It's a very like
it is
low
interesting.
key and just like it ebbs and flows almost like a wave kind of.
But
and
it's not.
I like the approach that it has.
It's a homophone to intention, right? Where you're like, what is your intent?
Yes.
But it isn't related in meaning. So I don't know.
Well, I've never explored the lyrics enough to really
I don't know what the intention of the name intention is, but
all I know, I like it as a nice reprieve from The Pot and Rosetta Stone, but at the same time, it's the most forgotten song of the album.
That's
for me.
true.
Like, I'm the most.
I agree. I mean, I have it as a 7, which is the lowest ranking I give on the album.
I think it's to me it's an 8. It's higher than a 7, and it's largely because the second half has a very like jammy section to it. To me, it actually makes me think of where Tool's going on the next album the most for Fear Inoculum. So that's why I kind of enjoy it for what it is, and I think it is a good break before it gets to the final song right into, which is the more straightforward closing song. It doesn't quite fully capture the thematic and intense beauty of Wings for Marie, but to me, it's still a 10 out of 10. I think it's a great closing song. Notice I'm talking about it as a closing track. I don't really consider Magenti Tress as a closing song.
You typically skip the interludes when talking through them. So
for this album, I do. Like
For a few of them, you
for
have, but
well, for not for Aenima though, not for Aenima. This
not
one,
for all of the interludes on it.
yeah, this one though I have because I really do consider Lost Keys as a part of Rosetta Stone. Le Pen Conjuring. Yeah, I mean, I gave it a 7, but
Yeah.
once again, I find it helps to break up the album a little bit. I don't mind it.
I mean, I'm not arguing. Like, if I actively thought instrumental thing or an intermission type track didn't belong on an album, I'd give it less than a 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
But so it still fits, yeah.
yeah.
So
I just
yeah,
don't give it the quality of an actual song either, because I just don't think it.
yeah. So right into to me, it doesn't fully recapture the songwriting intensity of the first half, and specifically, as I said, Wings of Marie, but largely due to that tabla solo, which is that like a little drum bit that comes in during the middle of the song, and how they bring it back, which with some really intense metal riffage. I think it still becomes a perfect 10 out of 10 song in my eyes. And I do like the lyrics, even though they are quite obvious. I don't mind the preachy aspect of,
I
monkeys
think they're sort of repetitive.
dividing. It's repetitive, but I don't know. I do not mind that aspect of Tool, essentially. So
Sometimes repetition is interesting, and I won't mention it, and then other times I find it annoying, and then I'll mention it. But it is very case by case, and on how effective the song is at implementing it.
So
what was your overall ranking for that?
Yeah. So my overall ranking, Almart, I gave a 9. Like I think it's.
I like it.
Yeah, I think it's great. I don't even mind the glasses.
Yeah, I gave it a 10.
I don't even mind the glasses.
Well, the glasses aren't part of the album art. They're part of the album construction, like the physical album.
You don't have as a ranking,
which I don't have as a ranking because I never.
So yeah, maybe
because Tool is like the
only 10.
The only artist I know that does gimmick albums.
Let's see. So if I give this a 10,
it shouldn't affect it that much.
Oh shit! Look.
Yeah, it went up like 0.02, 0.01.
Yeah, something like that. But
it went up from 9.37 to 9.39, I think.
Mm-hmm. But the production quality of 10, album construction of 10, which, I mean, honestly, I could give that maybe a 9, maybe. Look at how that affects it.
Yeah, see, that's so much more important than the artwork quality.
So here we're getting to the main thing I want to say about this album. Like, I think there are some imperfect songs on here and some unnecessary interludes, but I still have to give 10,000 Days to me a 10 out of 10. I think it's still a perfect album. I mean, it's not perfect. This is when the perfect album thing becomes like flawed. Like, I view it as a 10 out of 10. Like, I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah.
The imperfections and the perfections. I think the emotional weight, along with the balance of Tool's career up to this point, makes it a 10 for me. Like, I enjoy how it's got the humor of Aenima. It's a lot more lighthearted than like Lateralis. As you were saying, Lateralis is just like ones and zeros almost in comparison to this, which is just all over the place. It's kind of a mess in comparison. But I think I enjoy that from Tool. I think I prefer that. And this is the perfect example. It ranges from talking about the fucking genie from, the dude's playhouse or whatever, to his mom dying after 27-year battle with being crippled, essentially, to smoking pot. So I enjoy that variety from Tool while them still delivering their usual just perfect blend of progressive metal and alternative metal and prog rock, but mainly still progressive metal as the crux. And I think that's the main difference between this, which is decidedly more proggy in delivery, and this feels just a little bit heavier, a little bit more metallic to me. So there we go. So we're dropped off there. 2006.
But then now we need to take. I think we need to take a break.
Let's take a break.
I'll be right back.
Let's take a break. Let's just chill for a little bit. No need to rush. We got 13 years. There's, we got some time to burn. I'm gonna get another beer. What you guys drinking? I'm gonna have the same beer that I've been having this whole time. Guess what? It's another Torpedo IPA from Sierra Nevada. I do like Sierra Nevada as a brewery. Probably when you think of craft breweries, they should be one of the first three you think of, and that is for good reason. And this Torpedo IPA is one of them. So, cheers all. But no, it's it's definitely interesting to think of this break that Tool has coming up. So they released 10,000 Days in 2006, and for the next fucking 13 years, what are they doing? I just don't think they really care as much. Or maybe the weight of producing another album is too much, and procrastination just hits. And Maynard just goes off and does, Pussifer, and starts making wine and everything like that. Which, speaking of wine, I do actually have one of his wines. So, back in Charlotte, I went to a winery market or something like that, and obviously I was wearing like a metal shirt, and this fucking sales wine bastard guy spotted me and essentially pitched me this wine right here, Caduceus, which is a wine from Arizona, from Maynard James Keenan's brewery, or no, winery. And this one is the 2018 version of Anubis. And yeah. So this is what he's been doing, essentially. He's got his own little winery out in Arizona. Been making music with Pussifer. And really was not too involved with Tool during this time. Real quick, back to the wine. So I bought this back in 2020, I think. It's made in 2018. And I don't know what to do with it. I don't drink much wine. I've just been letting it sit in a bottle. I can't let it go bad, but I don't really want to open it. So, I don't know. I'm going to have to find a specific, very special occasion to open this bottle of wine and drink it with good people. So, cheers. But yeah, so here we are in the years between 2006 and 2019. And Tool is just ultimately fractured. And it's got Maynard on one side making wine and doing Pussifer, and the other members of Tool are fully embedded into just their own musical projects, but then at the same time they are working on this Tool album. So I'm going to go and start kind of reading into the approach. So when it comes to Fear Inoculum, I think it's hard to approach this album without stating the fact that this is one of the longest awaited albums ever. Probably only second to Guns N' Roses' Chinese Democracy and the upcoming Necrophagist album, which will never come out, except maybe it will. So, as I said, it was 13 years in between the release of 10,000 Days, 2006, and this album. And I know a lot of fans never thought it was going to come out. So, I think when we approach this album, which I will finally show, here we go. Fear Inoculum. We have to approach it very differently from 10,000 Days and really any other Tool album that was released up to this point. This is not the same band. I mean, at the point that they're writing this, they're all in their 50s and they all have a very different approach to music. Immediate is no longer in their vocabulary. Intense and like truly metal is really no longer in their musical vocabulary. They are now approaching writing from the aspect of an instrumental metal band because I think their lead singer has essentially fucked off and is doing Wine or Pussifer. So I think because of Maynard's continued absence, most of these songs are okay or not okay without Maynard. They don't need Maynard to exist.
I'm back.
Oh, Marc's back. All right.
Talked about the gimmick.
I did talk about the gimmick. This gimmick?
No. The battery-powered CD.
Oh, I haven't gotten to that yet. I was talking about how long the wait was, and just when approaching this album, I think it's important that you consider that this is not the same Tool that wrote 10,000 Days or wrote Lateralis or any of their other albums, because
Maynard's
had
old now.
13 years and Maynard doesn't care. He's off doing his own thing. He's off making Wine, which is what I was talking about, and touring around with Pussifer and stuff. So this is really Tool.
Wouldn't it be Pussifer?
Or Pussifer. Oh. Pussifer sounds edgier. Sorry. But no. Now to get back to Tool and their incessant marketing campaign, because one thing has not changed. They like to make unique packaging and a unique album experience. So here we go. We got Fear Inoculum. And if you open it up,
I like those two art, the
art on the inside is a lot cooler than on the outside.
Yeah. Then you have a little video.
And then you got the little video, which you literally have to charge. I charged this for you guys earlier today to make sure it would play.
The eyeball.
The eye. The all-seeing eyes.
The third eye.
The infinitesimal, infinite eye. Here.
A single third eye made up of a billion eyes.
I know, it's pretty trippy. Like the song itself that plays during this is nothing more than like an ambient track. But it's cool to watch.
Mm-hmm.
So I did pay about $40 for this when it came out.
Is there one without that?
Back in 2019. Not as far as I know. And this was a very limited thing. Like, Marc, this was the closest I came to like camping out for a release when it came out. Like I went to Target because it was like a Target exclusive. Nothing says a Tool fan like I mean to go to Target. But yeah. So I went, this was when I was living in Charlotte. I went to a Target before work. I camped out there and ran in as soon as they opened at like 7:30 or 8. And they only had 2 copies. 2 people were ahead of me. But it was me and this one other guy, right, who missed out on buying this. And I had to go to work because I had to start within. I didn't have enough time to go to another Target. But the other dude who I was, missed out with was like, oh, I heard there was another Target that had tons of copies. If you give me the money now, I will go and buy you a copy. And I was like, that seems stupid. But sure,
I'll
here you
do
go.
it.
And I gave him $40. And he went and he actually did find me a copy at like the Target that was located on, up in Concord or whatever.
Monkey
And
together strong. Nice.
yep. And we met the next day in like a parking lot and exchanged. He gave me the album that he bought for me.
That's
And
pretty
that
cool.
right there is a bond for Tool fans.
Solidarity.
A solidarity. Like I knew he was legit because he was like, he looked like a fucking nerd. He was literally like running down the aisle at the same pace I was running down the aisle to the CD section of this Target, and was just as pissed that they were out. And yeah, I could tell there was some solidarity there. So I don't even remember the dude's name, but I own this because of him. So
Props to him.
Props to him. But yeah, Fear Inoculum, first Tool album in 13 years. Big deal. I think I gave my
But was it worth the
intro.
wait?
Let's find out.
Oh, was it me?
Mark, was it worth the wait?
Fear Inoculum. We start off with a slow building song that gets up a decent, it's good. I have nothing to complain about. I give it an 8. Which is
track.
Yeah. And they're, like that's good. That's better than like the minimum of a song that I wouldn't complain about. Numa is another good one. I like the drum work a lot. I mentioned the build-up. A lot of these songs, looking back, I'm not sure I remember them. No, I do remember them. Yeah, Invincible is the one with the...
Yeah.
Is sort of chuggy.
Yes, it's got the very chuggy like breakdown part, and he says Caligula too.
Yes, that's a Roman emperor, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And then Litany contre la peur. I guess that's a song against the whatever peur is. I don't know. Fear. Litany against the fear. That makes sense. Contra would be counter. Contrapositive against. Then Invincible. And all this song is, to me, there's definitely some parts where it's not very serious, like Chocolate Chip Trip, but that's also like an interlude. So I don't know if there are any like it's very solid songs that are sort of tongue in cheek.
Yeah, I don't think so. The closest to me would be Calling Voices.
Mm-hmm. Which I like it. That's one of the good songs. That's a 9. Descending is also a 9. I like this one. It sort of is, to me, a throwback to the sort of like, you have the intro, the laid back intro building up into the more chuggy, heavy bits in the latter half of the song, which is this is a solid, at least from my, recent perusal of the Tool discography. This is just a solid example of literally all just classic Tool songwriting tropes. With less focus on Maynard's lyrics, right? Like, I cannot think of anything from this like, I can say what I want to, even if it's not serious. Or, I can't think of anything like that.
Yeah.
Off this album. Calling Voices, like what they did to Maynard's voice in this album, is not. I'm kidding.
But not really.
Yeah.
It's accurate.
I say the middle section is great. I don't quite remember what it's like. I remember Descending in Invincible because Invincible has that xylophone.
Mm-hmm.
Tempest I like. I think that's a really good one.
You gave that one a 10, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, it also I think is probably Maynard's most
Yes.
most verbose work on this album.
Yeah, he's the most present on that song for sure.
That's really what I'm missing.
So do you feel like there is something missing from it?
Yeah. Because I know that it's like it depends. Like I don't think like you'll see when I mention the album construction. The album was constructed well, right? The only reason I know it's missing stuff is because I know what Tool can do, right? In their other albums. So in that sense it's missing something, but in terms of the like main thrust of the album, I don't know if it's missing anything.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
No, it does. You're separating it from Tool overall, and there are other. Like I think you have to think of Fear Inoculum almost as a separate piece, a little bit.
It's very a cohesive album.
It's 13 years separate from 10,000 Days. I mean, how can you not consider it a entirely different entity? I mean, it still sounds like Tool in a way, but it's not necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I think if you understand that, it helps a little bit.
Yeah. So I don't really like the artwork on this.
Yeah, it's what you said. I wish they were able to even like put this middle picture.
Mm-hmm.
That's better than that.
Sort of teases at it, but it's also just like unsatisfying.
Yeah, I mean,
I give it a 7.
like why not use like that?
That's pretty cool. I don't think it's off-putting, so I didn't give it less.
Truly, the best. I'm sorry, the best is when you actually open up the CD booklet, and like that's on the inside.
That's really cool, but that's also like a throwback to Lateralis.
Yeah,
but that is very cool. I do like that art.
Mm-hmm. It's like that's the option.
Production quality, I thought was fairly good. You know,
or even on the booklet, you got like
was good.
The Skeleton Priest.
That would have been a good cover for Opiate.
Yeah, instead of the alternate.
Instead of the other alternate one where it was like overly affected, Photoshoppy, the repressing of Opiate cover. But yeah, my total for that is like I think 8.3 or something. I like that one.
Yeah, like the Stardew.
Yes.
Stardew Starfish thing.
The 7-pointed star. Mm-hmm. They had that at the concert.
Or heck, I mean, even I mean, that's pretty crazy looking.
Yes.
So yeah, they had options. I think that is the move of a band who realizes that they don't have to try that hard to get you to buy their product, you know? And almost it's like less is more. Because it's like, you know, to me, they're still delivering, right? Because the cohesive piece, you're like, wow, so what is this? And then you open it up. I mean, like, this is obscene. Like ridiculous that you have a. I don't have any other CD or any music release that has a little movie that plays whenever you open up your fucking booklet. You know,
It's a little
so
absurd.
it's absolutely absurd, but it allows them to get away with this being their album artwork. You know,
I mean, I sort of would just rather it not have the gimmick.
and just rather it be like,
I would much rather just have a
oh yeah,
normal CD.
here's my copy of Fear Inoculum. It's the normal CD like normal bands do.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I mean I guess I wouldn't disagree. Like I would rather be able to have just gone out on release day and buy this for $15 for a CD versus $40 for an exclusive.
Like, I don't mind if they have that in addition. You know,
Yeah.
like some will have like digipacks and paper books and all that stuff.
It was not the case. Yeah, this was the only option on release day. I think they did release maybe a more stripped down version for like 25 bucks maybe. But at that point you might as well just get this. And that was like 6 months later, and yeah, I needed this album.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you give this one?
8.3.
8.3. All right. So,
which is a good album. That's actually very good for me.
Funny. So none of these albums dip below an 8 for you.
None of them were very. Yeah.
This is all very consistent. I am impressed.
It's all very consistently good.
They're a very consistently good band. I think so. I mean, man.
Now the interesting thing is that even I don't know how good their top tier songs, I'm not sure would be in my top 10 list of songs, right?
But why would they be though for you?
Yeah.
How long have you been listening to these songs?
Some of the top 10, but the top 10 ones I've been listening to the most, just because those are the ones, except like Third Eye and a few others. Most.
From this album, you mean?
From all of their albums.
Exactly. Well, that's what I was saying. Like
Sober. You know.
But you haven't. I mean, you haven't listened to. I don't feel like you have the same history. Like, in order for a song to enter into your personal top 10 of all time songs.
I mean, I've listened to it like at the same times as like, back when I was really into Blind Guardian and listened to.
Yeah, but
No Door on repeat.
One triggered you to find your all-time favorite band, Blind Guardian, while the other one was like, oh yeah, that's the one my brother listens to, maybe, with cool music videos.
And I revisit those music videos, but
it's not like a top 10 favorite song though of all.
It's a 10 out of 10 song, but it's not a top 10 song. Yeah.
But I'm trying to add up that for me, maybe at least one of these is a top 10 all-time song. I don't think I would ever torture myself with the undertaking of ranking a top 10 all-time songs, but a Tool song would probably be in there.
If you have them all in spreadsheets, all you have to do is grab everything.
I don't have them all in spreadsheets though, Mark. They're scattered.
Well, if I keep doing these with you, I'll have all mine in spreadsheets. So,
well, then let's keep it up. We'll talk later about the next one. But here, let's see if we can at least get this done by 4 hours.
By 4 hours?
Yeah, we can.
I thought you said this would be a 2-hour stream.
I lied. Surprise. I always do. All right. So I was saying that, you can't approach this album with the same as 10,000 Days. I think I've definitely said that, and I definitely talked about the fact that they approached this album as an instrumental band, essentially, of the other members. And This could be due to Maynard's continued absence. And needless to say, most of the songs seem to fit with or without Maynard. Most of his stuff is really an afterthought. That's what it feels like, you know? And he seems like he understands this when he approaches these tracks. Like he's not inserting himself where he shouldn't be. It's just he doesn't need to be in as many places. It's very sparse. His approach is meant to add context and like lyrical intensity to the music rather than be the focus of it. So this really allows everything else to breathe. So to enjoy this album, you have to accept this fact. You know, if you come to terms with this and how different Tool is now versus then, I think you can find a very impressive slab of dynamic progressive rock and metal. If not, then you're just not going to like this album, you know? So let me dive into my spreadsheet. So Fear Inoculum, I think, is a 9. It's a great opening song. I love the dynamics of it. I love how it kind of sucks you in with that opening feeling. And then I think it's a great commercial single, too, and opening track. In representation of the other songs in the album, you know? And I think it kind of ends on a strong point, too. It ends on a very metal instrumental section, which is perfect. Numa is my favorite song in the album. It's the only 10 that I give out. I know you gave Tempest a 10, but Numa is mine. I think it perfectly captures elements of Lateralis and Aenima a little bit. Lateralis in like the main riff part from the chorus sounds like The Patient, which is a great song. And then the jammy section, it feels very purposeful and motivated and driven. So I the lyrical structure too. It just fits perfectly to what they've already talked about. It's like a greatest hit for Tool. I mean, and as a Tool fan, I guess I would dive right into it and accept it. And then going into Invincible and Descending, they're kind of interchangeable in a way. Like they both occupy very similar space for the middle of the album. I like Invincible better. I like that Meshuggah chuggy part. I like the chorus and the overall lyrical nature of it. We're talking about, you know, warriors, gladiators, just, you know, people who have fought, but there's no need anymore. Because I feel like it's coming from a modern perspective of like, you're obsolete a little bit. You know, we're now in the era of drone strikes, like wiping out people with the push of a button. There's no need for the warrior anymore. And I don't know, it has that sad feeling. Descending is just not quite as good to me as it occupies a similar space, but it's still very unique. I admit I like the middle section of that song. It says "Sound the dread alarm." If you remember that part, that's pretty fucking cool. And then calling voices is perfect.
But it's not.
But it's a 9. Okay, it's not perfect. It's a 9. It's a 9 because guess what? They didn't let Maynard unleash his full potential, or Maynard didn't let himself unleash his full potential. I don't know, but he kept it in. He, you know, chilled out and kept it subdued. But the rest of the instrumentation really packs a wall up for calling voices. So I think it's a 9. It doesn't quite transcend to a 10 to me. And honestly, the same with Tempest. Very similar. They finally let Maynard out of his cage a little bit. And I mean, it's great. and it has that sense of a raging metal song finally. But truthfully, I think it's still a bit misleading. I mean, it sounds urgent in the beginning, but there's still like 15 minutes of music here, and there's still the same jammy band behind it. You know, I still think it sounds the closest to 10,000 Days, though, as far as the song goes.
Uh-huh.
But let's see. So I think as far as this album goes, if you can survive a jam Tool as a jam band, you'll be fine. Like, this is a jam band Tool. I mean, they transform their average song into like 10 minutes, essentially. It's because they have 13 years to go on to do whatever they want with these songs. So obviously they're all going to become fairly overbloated. So if you can deal with like a jammier aspect for Tool, you can handle this album. If not, you're not going to like it. If you're going to go into it wanting Aenima or Lateralis or any of their other material, you're going to hate it. So I do not mind. I think it's a great album. I think it's a great addition to their discography because after 13 years, I'm not expecting this band to produce the same album that they did. They're not going to make Aenima again or Lateralis again. So, Jeff, I'm glad you're still hanging strong. Figured you were a Lateralis fan. Cheers, man.
Good night.
Yep. Holy Fibonacci sequence.
I'm going to call it a night soon, too.
We're wrapping it up. So, sorry. After all of that, I still give it a 9 out of 10. And honestly, maybe that's a bit of a Tool fan in me wanting to hyperflate it more than it needs to be. But I think I still like these songs. I still like...
I mean, I like the song.
I still like the album overall. I still really enjoy...
8.0 is a 7 is a liked album.
Exactly.
Right? Even a 6 is like...
Marc,
yeah, that's...
I'm impressed all of these albums were over an 8 for you, honestly.
I know.
I thought
I'm
some of
surprised
them,
too, actually.
I thought some of them were going to be like a
That's
7.
why I like doing the numbers, because if I did it from gut, I would be like, I like them, but, they didn't really impact me very well. Because most likely because of the lack of, like, heavy-hitting tins, in my opinion. Which a lot of my favorite bands have a much wider range of qualities. Like they'll have some 6 songs and some 10 songs that are like my favorites on the same album, right? And this is more just consistent.
See, and that is probably why I think some of their albums are just some of my favorite, period.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're so consistent all the way across. I mean, so here, let's do the overall ranking.
Okay.
So what is your overall?
Number 6.
We have 5. We have 5.
5?
Right?
Where's Opiate?
Is it 6 with Opiate?
I have 6 listed.
Okay, then 6. Sorry. So it's 5 full links and then Opiate. Yeah. Sorry, that's right.
We can ignore Opiate if you want.
No, Opiate's a part of it.
Okay. Number 6. Say it at the same time, or
no? You go through yours.
Okay, I'll do mine first. Do you want to share the? Look at that.
Fear inoculum.
The topic. 8.36. Fear inoculum is number 6, which I mean, that's pretty high for a number 6. Like I think my Blind Guardian, my lowest one was like 7.8 or something, 7.9, which would have been, well, that's not important right now. It is my least favorite. I've listened to it the least as well. So that might be some of it. But it's also like I don't mind like more jammy stuff or long songs, but it's not my favorite. Like I mean, it's just going to be an 8. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
Opiate and Undertow. All of these are fairly like similarly ranked. 8.36, 8.38, 8.41. That's not very big gaps.
Yeah.
Opiate has a lot of good songs on it. Undertow does as well. But I think it's the lack of tins again. Because Opiate, I don't think I put a single tin on. Yeah.
And
It's just all
Undertow,
consistently 8s and 9s.
Undertow
Undertow,
at
I
least
have
said
one.
sober.
Sober.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have some 7s on Undertow. Yeah. Because of Disgustipated and such. Then we get to number 3 is Lateralis.
Wow, Lateralis.
8.5.
Oh, man.
0.1 jump up. Halfway through.
Uh-huh. What's your number 2, Marc?
Aenima.
Oh, shit. Okay. Wow.
8.72. So we're jumping up. Which, of course, leaves in suspense 10,000 Days.
How did that end up being your number 1?
I think just because it's like, it's
I'm actually incredibly surprised by that. I thought it was going to be Lateralis, actually, going into it. And then halfway through the stream, I thought it was going to be Aenima. But it was 10,000 Days.
I think it's just because of the Aenima. I think I was just sort of annoyed by all the intermissions. And Lateralis, 10,000 Days, the intermissions sort of blend together with the songs more.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's impressive to me. That's cool.
So I think that's mainly why. Of course, if you look at the, let's see.
How many 10s did you have on 10,000 Days? You had...
I just have 3.
I mean, didn't you have 3?
Yeah.
You only had 2 on Aenima.
I had 3 on Aenima.
3 on Aenima.
Aenima,
okay.
Third Eye, and 46 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is sort of a... Yeah. It's just these Jimmy... There's a few songs which I'm just... are sort of in like my middle range of like liking this. Like 7 for me is a... I like it, but I'd rather listen to an 8.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, and to me, an 8 is like... I won't turn it off for a 9, you know?
Yeah, I'll
finish listening to it, you know?
7 and 6 I like, but I'll skip them to get to a better song
9.
if I'm in the mood.
Yeah.
5 I'm starting to dislike it.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of my ranking.
All right, that's a solid ranking. All right, I'm not going to show mine because it's from the gut. So my number, I guess, starting at the back, I was starting number 1, but number 6 is actually Undertow. Yeah, it's just too inconsistent of an album. It ends very weakly, unfortunately. I mean, it's still to me like an 8.5, 8.6.
I think it is the most inconsistent, even for my like ranking system. It's just it
really is. It's unfortunate. It's very top heavy, and I think if there's one thing you don't want to be top heavy. I mean, you want to be like a little heavy in the front. But
that's sort of your problem, though. Like we had this problem with Mastodon too, where
I
you said
know,
all this.
but you want to be able to capture your attention all the way across this album, and it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So number 6 is Undertow. Number 5 is Opiate. Barely. I mean, it's honestly, it's like
Mhm.
8.55,
I sort of had
8.55,
them all tied, right?
8.6. I mean, these are like interchangeable. But I think I've just listened to Undertow more naturally,
It's shorter.
and I think that's also why it's just shorter. There's no stuff I have to wade through. As I said, like there's
I mean, that's the
an
benefit
8.
of EPs.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe it's cheating.
You don't
I
have
don't
to
know,
pad it with
but
fluff to make a full album.
I like it for what it is, and I think songs like "Jerk Off" track 5 and "Opiate" track 6 make it easily re-listenable. And then rank number 4, Fear Inoculum. It's a 9 for me out of 10. So it's probably would. I think Undertow will always be my most least listened to, but then maybe this one. But still, when I listen to it, I definitely get an impact from it, and it makes me think of these hippie jam bands, versus like a Tool metal band, which is still good.
Makes me think of
Just
Liquid Tension
just
Experiment.
yes, yeah. Actually, I would agree with that. A band with too much time and just talent on its hands. And then ranked number 3, I give this a 9.75, Lateralis. I mean, and to many people, this is the ultimate Tool album. And I would not disagree off the top of my head. Like, if you want the ultimate Tool album without like the extra, humor and interlude tracks and Rosetta Stoned and hippie jam band stuff, this is it. Lateralis. 2 is 10,000 Days, which is a 10 out of 10. This is a perfect album for me. So I am really excited that you liked this and thought this was number 1, because it has that potential, in my opinion. Because I still think this is a perfect album. I mean, it's, 1A, 1B and 1A. So, Aenima, 11 out of 10. I mean, yeah. Love that album. All right. So now, can you quickly come up with a top 5 Tool songs?
Let me rattle it off. Let's start with number 5. Let's just get that out of the way. I think I'll do Sober.
Okay.
Sober for number 5. I think I'll do Ticks and Leeches, number 4.
Nice. Yeah.
Let's do 46 and 2, Third Eye, and then 10,000 Days for the last 3.
That's awesome. Okay. All right. So Third Eye was your number 2?
Yes.
Sweet. So for mine, number 5, 46 and 2. I think that's like the perfect Tool song. If I were to show any newcomer to Tool, it would be that song right there. Number 4 would be Eulogy. I love the progressive and the intense elements to that one. Number 3 would be The Grudge. That just for the scream alone is number 3.
Right.
And then number 2, 10,000 Days, part 1 and part 2 combined. I'm cheating.
I
One
consider them the
one
same song,
just
too.
amazing. And then number 1 is, as I said, it's H.
Right.
Perfect song. So did you have 10,000 Days as that was your number 1? Yeah,
and it's both of them. So
yeah, it's because of the emotional weight of it. You can't argue with the intensity. It's impressive that they were able to fully capture that, I think. Okay, so from there, let's quickly talk about just seeing them live, because I think one of the main impetuses for doing this stream and wanting to finally tackle Tool was just the fact that I knew we were going to see them live, you know?
Yep.
Like,
saw them live.
That was probably my number 1 band that I wanted to see. And it's finally checked off. It was just amazing. It was amazing to be able to share it with you and Sammy, who is our younger sister as well. She came, and it was it was an amazing experience, really. And kind of kickstarted this whole thing. So what did you think of the live experience?
I thought it was interesting. It was very much like a spectacle rather than a participatory concert, you know? Like very much more of a, except for like the final track, Stinkfist, when you sort of got a lot more audience participation. Everyone started actually headbanging, where before everyone was just sort of sitting and watching the light show. It was very cool with it was basically just a bunch of music videos with a fabulous laser show live, which, I mean, it was good to see.
Yeah, I definitely felt, honestly, you saying that it was a spectacle more than a participatory thing sums it up perfectly, because that's how I felt. It was very much a two-sided thing. Like, on one side, I was a little disappointed, maybe, just because it wasn't what I would want it to be, but it couldn't be what I would want it, you know, because Tool is not the band where you can actually be giving equal energy back and be in the crowd, like, you know, moshing or just headbanging or standing up even. Like, we were unfortunately seated back.
Yeah.
And everyone was sitting.
Everyone else was sitting, except for the final song.
I wanted to stand. Believe me, the whole time I wanted to stand. I did not want to be sitting. But you're a dick if you stand, essentially, because you're
especially when you're not in. Those chairs are so short, and we're sort of tall, or you know.
Yep. So it definitely dampened the experience overall because of that, which is out of Tool's control, truthfully. And themselves, their performance was great. Like, the light show was impressive. The music videos going on in the background was amazing. I really liked the set list. The set list was kind of surprising, actually. I did not expect it to be as full of deep cuts as it was. First off, it was like 5 songs off of Fear Inoculum, which I was surprised. Like, they played Invincible, Descending, Numa, the title track, and Chocolate Chip Trip, the drum interlude. And that was great. That was cool to hear. But I think my favorite songs were finally being able to hear The Grudge live, like that was big for me. And then being able to hear Intolerance, which was the opening song for Undertow, and
Oh
yeah, and probably Jambi and Rosetta Stone from 10,000 Days, because they played both of those songs live too, and
Mm-hmm.
it sounded really killer. And probably the Rosetta Stone from 10,000 Days, that was with the alien eyes and stuff. That's probably the coolest background like performance that they had. Like the videos and stuff and the visuals was the coolest for that song. So I definitely like the set list. I kind of wish they played a little bit more of the more boring cuts, obvious cuts, because this is my first time seeing them. But you know, I'm not going to complain that they played really deep cuts. I was just surprised they did not play 46 and 2. They didn't play Sober. They didn't play Schism or Vicarious. You know, like all like the obvious songs.
Third Eye.
Not quite the obvious one, Mark. I think they could have played that one.
Obvious for me.
Yeah. But they did play Flood, and that was neat, but I'm still iffy on that song. But it was super cool to see
They
them
played
live.
Stinkfist.
And then once again, to highlight one other thing. Oh, they did play Stinkfist.
You can watch that on. They let you videotape that one, so it's probably on YouTube.
Oh yeah. I mean, come on. Someone uploaded the concert, I'm sure.
The whole concert?
Yeah.
You don't think Maynard
in parts
met them after the concert and chatted in their mouth?
He might have, but
he promised to.
They still uploaded it.
That was just a plus for them.
that's what they were looking for. One of the other cool parts, though, was being able to see this band beforehand. Marc is wearing their shirt. I also have the shirt. Elder. I just really want to quickly talk about Tool and their ability to bring excellent supporting acts on the tour with them. Because they know how to pick a support band. So they definitely don't stick with like metal music specifically. They'll go with wherever. Oh, and Marc's got a separate album too.
There we go.
What album is that, Marc?
Roots or something. Something Roots. Dead Roots Stirring.
Dead Roots Stirring. It's, I think, their second album. They were good. We caught we missed the first part of their set, but yeah, it was cool to still see them. But Tool always tours with great bands. Just to list some of the bands they've toured with in the past, they've toured with Night Versus, actually, which is coming up in over the summer. Toured with Author and Punisher, Killing Joke. They've toured with BYOB back in 2012 and stuff. So there you go. ISIS, Russian Circles, Big Business, and then famously, at least in my ears, they toured with Meshuggah, and I think that's where they got the djenty parts for 10,000 Days and stuff, like Jambi. So, in closing, what do you think is their legacy, Marc, that the Tool has left upon the musical world, or at least on you?
Legacy.
Or if you're tired, we just close it. It's fine.
Yeah, I can't really speak. Let's say.
I don't know. To me, it's just like they're the ultimate example of taking that complex narrative and just actually making it palatable and
Mm-hmm.
not taking themselves too seriously while doing it, which I think they couldn't have done it without that. And I think, as we mentioned really early on in the stream, they are what Rush was to Gen X, Dream Theater to also Gen X. Sorry, Rush to the Boomers, Dream Theater to Gen X, Tool to like millennials. Essentially, it's like you need a in-depth like eye widening progressive rock band to make yourself
Mm-hmm.
Feel more versed in music. Then that's your band. But then at the same time, they really backed it up, and I think they really made some emotionally impactful and very important music to me and to a lot of other people. I mean, like I love this band. It's probably a top 5 band for me for sure. So
Mm-hmm.
being able to see them live with you and being able to kind of dive into this discography
Mm-hmm.
has been just really great. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I
And,
I appreciate it. It's important to me, and man, thank you for
yeah,
diving in and sharing it for sure.
and
So
I know I have known that it's been one of your top bands
yeah, as you said,
for a
you
long
listened
time.
to it
Yeah.
significantly beforehand, just because it was always on rotation. So yeah, it's they're a big band. So
Mm-hmm. It's funny how like I consider them. They're like the obscure mainstream, which is like it's funny because they're probably more popular than bands that I consider more sellouty, like Disturbed, or like, or are they not? I don't know,
they're probably comparable, or maybe a
but
little bit more. I don't know. Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
but
I would have to look at like the
the
streams and stuff,
statistics,
but
yeah.
but one is definitely a little bit more advanced, and that's what lends, I guess, to
Yeah.
the fandom being what it is, But
Hmm.
to anyone who's stuck around for once again almost 4 hours, cheers! Thank you for watching, Marc. Beer inoculum. Thank you for being
I
here.
don't have my beer anymore, but
It's all good. Cheers.
cheers.
We are the Tool. Open your third eye.